Suaranya tidak ada ya?
Sudah Budekan masuk kok suara Budekan.
Oh, nggih.
Oh,
sudah masuk, Bu.
Nggih, sampun, nggih.
Suaranya kok ya, telat ya Bu Ningrum. Suaranya di sebelah kanan metune keri. Ini sudah 63, ini 64 audiens.
Bisa dimulai?
Nggih, Budekan. Ayo dimulai. Oh, Pak itu sudah masuk. Siap.
Oh, Pak Umar sudah masuk belum?
Kedap.
Nggih.
Yang hubungi beliau.
Nggih, menunggu narasumber dulu. Di rumah ini, Sis?
Wonten ruangipun Pak Kaprodi. Di
Oh,
ruang
ya.
Kaprodi nemani Aini. Sip, injih. Prof Bibi sebentar saya ceknya. Prof Bibi, insya Allah dia. Prof Bibi sudah masuk? Sudah ya, Prof Bibi sudah masuk ya. Prof Bibi, narasumber Prof Bibi.
Selamat datang, selamat bergabung Bapak Ibu semua, para mahasiswa juga di International Webinar Program Studi Pendidikan Islam Anak Usia Dini UIN Sunan Kalijogo, Yogyakarta. Acara akan segera kita mulai beberapa saat lagi. Ini masih menunggu beberapa narasumber yang akan join di Zoom ini.
Dr. Umar sudah bergabung belum? Belum ya?
Selamat bergabung Pak Dr. Umar, Direktur KSKK Kementerian Agama. Apakah bisa mendengar? Oh, lagi nel. Selamat bergabung Pak Umar.
Halo, Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
Waalaikumsalam. Pak Umar, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam, Ibu.
Nggih.
Ibu dari UIN Jogja.
Betul,
Oh,
betul.
nggih.
Di Jakarta ya Pak posisinya?
Inggih, teng Jakarta di kantor ini kalau.
Oh nggih, alhamdulillah pagi-pagi sudah di kantor.
Oh, kan kewajiban.
Nggih. Nggih. Nggih.
Ini Bu. Kita mulai ya.
Nggih.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Honorable Ibu Dr. Hajah Sri Sumarni MPD as the Dean of Faculty Tarbiyah and Education Sciences, Bapak Dr. Haji Umar MA as the Director of Madrasah Institutional Facilities and Student Curriculum, Ministry of Religious Affairs Indonesia, Profesor Madya Dr. Bibi binti Rahmatullah, Dr. Syazia Mansuri, Dr. Candidate Ali Murfi, Bapak Dr. Sigit Purnama, MPD as the Chief of Early Childhood Islamic Education Study Program, Ibu Rohinah MA as the Secretary of Early Childhood Islamic Education Program, all the students, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. First of all, I would like to welcome you to all this webinar.
Mas.
We have to thank Allah who always gives us health and opportunity to meet online in this situation. This international webinar is presented by the Study Program of Early Childhood Islamic Education, Faculty of Education and Teaching Science, State Islamic University, Sunan Kalijaga. The Early Childhood Islamic Education Study Program was started in 2013, which is the youngest study program at UIM. Its vision is to be superior and leading in the integration and development of Islamic, scientific, and Indonesian values to prepare early childhood educators. Through a series of lessons and enriched network of academics who are dynamic but rooted in Indonesian, we prepare early childhood educators who have integrity, critical thinking, adaptive, communicative, and digital skill needed to serve the community. Currently, this study program is led by Dr. Sigit Purnama, MPD. And for further information, you can visit piaud.uin-suka@.ic.id. And don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share our social media, Facebook page, Instagram, YouTube at Piaud Uin Sunan Kalijaga, and Shopee. You can buy our book in Piaud Bookstore. Okay, before we begin our webinar, let's open our agenda today with saying Basmalah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
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 Before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Aini. I'm here as your MC and your moderator today. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Ibu Dr. Hajah Sri Sumarni MPD as the first keynote speaker to deliver the presentation. To Ibu Dr. Hajah Sri Sumarni MPD, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Aini. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good morning,
Waalaikumsalam.
Dr. Haji Ahmad Umar, MA, Director of KSKK Madrasah, Ministry of Religion Affairs Indonesia. Profesor Matia, Dr. Bah Bibi, from Department Computing, Sultan Idris Education University, Malaysia. Dr. Sajia Manshori from Department of Education, Oligat Muslim University, India. Dr. Kandidat Ali Murfi, MSc, Maulana Malik Ibrahim, State Islam University, Malang, Indonesia. Dr. Sigit Purnama and Dr. Kandidat Rohinah from Early Childhood Islamic Education Study Program. Lecturers from State Islamic University Sunan Kalijaga, Yogyakarta. Ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome everyone to the international webinar on the Islamic Early Childhood Education in the New Normal Era. It is an honor for me to speak on behalf of the Faculty of Education and Teaching Science, State Islamic University Sunan Kalijaga, Yogyakarta. Sincerely thanks to Dr. Sigit Purnama, MPD, as the Chief of Early Childhood Islamic Education Study Program for organizing this wonderful webinar. The pandemic COVID-19 has changed and keep changing our life in many aspects. It is changing our lifestyle, work style, and teaching learning process. The COVID pandemic has made all level education, including early childhood education, stop face-to-face learning activities and switch to an online system learning, especially areas in the yellow, orange, and red zones. This raised cultural shock and constraint in the learning process, especially for rural communities who are not familiar with IT. There are at least 4 types of the obstacle in the online learning from home: communication, method, cost, and IT skill. Communication problem between children and parents and their teacher as caused by weak signal that are not covered by the internet network. So the task the child has to complete are unclear. In this case, children also lack trust in their parents because those who are considered to be able to teach only their teacher. The problem of online learning methods relates to the skill of teachers who have not had much experience due to sudden implementation. Meanwhile, parents are not fully ready to replace teachers that is because of the factor of competence and patience, including in education children. Cost problem are experienced by many families who parents' job cannot be done as a result of COVID-19 pandemic. such as driver, paiders, victim of layoff, and so on. The using IT skill is a problem that is mostly experienced by both parent and teacher because so far they are not familiar with IT. Meanwhile, conducting training on the using in online learning cannot be done quickly because there are still many areas that are red zones. However, this urgent condition has kept parents and teachers creative in practicing, even with their children or their close neighbor. The current condition is that many parents and teachers have basic skill in using IT assist early childhood on learning. There are the latest development regarding the implementation of online learning in early childhood education in Indonesia, especially on some areas that are in the red and orange zones. Hopefully, the benefit can be taken. This webinar we discuss a lot of online learning issues in early childhood education with the speaker, including Dr. Haji Ahmad Umar MA, Profesor Madia Dr. Bahbibi, Dr. Sazia Mansori, Dr. Kandidat Ali Murfi. Please enjoy it. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Ibu Dr. Haja Sri Sumarni MPD for the first presentation. And ladies and gentlemen, we will move to the second keynote speaker, Bapak Dr. Haji Ahmad Umar MA. Before I give the time, I would like to read you his curriculum vitae. Bapak Dr. Haji Umar MA finished his bachelor degree at UIN Wali Songo Semarang, and his master and doctoral degree were finished at UIN Sunan Kalijaga. And currently, Bapak Dr. Haji Umar MA is the Director of Madrasah Institutional Facilities and Student Curriculum, Ministry Religious and Affairs Indonesia. To Bapak Dr. Haji Umar MA, the floor is yours.
Baik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Sayyidina wa maulana Muhammadi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in amma ba'du. Bu Dekan yang saya hormati, kawan-kawan ketua jurusan, ketua program studi, sekretaris, kawan-kawan narasumber, peserta webinar, semua yang berbahagia. Saya oleh Mas Sigit diberi waktu antara 10 sampai 15 menit. Maka saya akan manfaatkan waktu sebisa mungkin, semaksimal mungkin. Saya pertama tertarik dengan tema ini, tema untuk memikirkan ulang pendidikan usia dini di saat dan setelah COVID-19. Dengan membiasakan budaya baru di era teknologi informasi yang sedang berkembang saat ini. Pertama saya akan bicara bahwa COVID-19 ini di samping musibah ternyata membawa berkah. Berkah di balik musibah COVID-19 ini adalah percepatan transformasi digital di dalam dunia pendidikan. Termasuk saat ini kita menikmati berkah dari COVID-19 karena dengan dengan adanya COVID-19 lalu kita mentransformasi digital ini, sekarang kita bisa bicara antar negara, jarak jauh, sehingga rasanya jauh di mata tapi dekat di hati. Setahu saya, musim COVID ini sudah 3 kali saya bicara dengan Mas Sigit di forum ini. Kalau nggak salah 3 kali ini, kalau nggak salah, seingat saya. Jadi ini sangat produktif sekali. Lalu kaitan dengan tema yang kita bicarakan pada hari ini adalah, saya ingin bicara tentang 2 hal. Satu, tentang asas pendidikan usia dini. Yang kedua, bagaimana pemanfaatan teknologi untuk anak-anak usia dini. Yang pertama, bahwa asas asuh anak itu adalah pada orang tua. Nasnya sudah jelas. Hadisnya jelas. Bahwa kullu mauludin yuladu alal fitrah. Fa innama abawahu yuhawidanihi ayunasiranihi ayumajisani. Lalu di hadis yang lain Rasul bersabda, hakul walid alal walad ayyuhsina ismahu wa adabahu wa yu'alimul kitab. Dan itu bahwa jelas kalau yang pertama itu abawahu bisa dikatakan mungkin orang tua yang melahirkan atau orang tua yang membimbing, mungkin bisa jadi guru. Tetapi hakul walid alal walad ini jelas bahwa ini orang tua yang melahirkan. Jadi kawan-kawan, substansi asasnya bahwa hak mengajar, hak mendidik itu pada orang tua. Adapun karena orang tua yang karena waktu yang nggak memungkinkan, kesempatan yang tak ada, bahkan mungkin kemampuan untuk mengajarkan yang kurang, lalu menyerahkan anak-anak ini kepada lembaga pendidikan, satuan pendidikan, mungkin playgroup, dan mungkin Bu Sri Sumarni mungkin generasi yang dulu mungkin tidak menikmati TK, nggak menikmati RA, kemungkinan. Karena saya lahir di kampung saya nggak ada TK, nggak ada RA. Setelah saya usia 25 tahun, lalu berdirilah RA, TK. Kenapa? Karena saat itu anak-anak bermain sudah sangat mudah. Ketemu anak-anak sebaya itu gampang. Kumpul di perapatan, kumpul di halaman orang tua yang orang-orang yang punya yang halamannya luas, dia bermain, bisa untuk mengasah rasa, bisa untuk mengasah diri, bisa untuk belajar toleransi, bisa untuk belajar saling menghargai, cukuplah itu. Tetapi sekarang awalnya pendidikan usia dini kan di kota-kota besar, yang rumahnya besar, yang rumahnya tidak besar, lalu pagarnya tinggi, anak nggak bisa saling komunikasi dengan teman sebayanya, maka dibuatlah tempat untuk bertemu anak-anak. Sebetulnya tujuannya bukan untuk belajar, tujuannya untuk bermain. Jadi kembali pada asas pendidikan anak usia dini itu adalah tidak untuk belajar, tapi untuk bermain. Lalu apa permainannya? Kawan-kawan, ini kawan-kawan yang menekuni di RA, yang di PAUD, mungkin mahasiswa yang menekuni di PAUD, saya jelaskan bahwa substansi pendidikan usia dini tidak untuk pembelajaran, tapi untuk permainan. Tetapi permainan itu mengandung 2 hal setidaknya. Satu, permainan yang mengandung nilai-nilai karakter. Tadi kejujuran, kedisiplinan, toleransi, menghargai, bisa tenggang rasa. Coba kalau anak kecil dulu zaman usia saya, bermain, kalah ya kalah, nggak ada ngeyel. Kenapa? Kalau dia ngeyel, sanksinya sanksi moral. Nah, maka saat dulu permainan tradisional itu bisa dilaksanakan mengasah orang itu nggak malu kalah, tapi menang tidak sombong. Karena kalau sombong dia dijauhi kawan-kawannya, nggak ada temannya dia. Maka dia belajar menang tidak sombong, kalah nggak kecil hati. Karena apa? Bermain ya biasa, menang kalah. Hal-hal seperti ini harus dilakukan di RA, di TK. Maka kalau di RA TK ini fungsi utama adalah permainan, maka dengan bermain itu anak merasa happy. anak merasa nyaman. Lalu di dalam permainan diselipkan nilai-nilai karakter. Karakter yang tadi saya sebutkan itu harus ada pada permainan yang dibuat oleh guru-guru, oleh para pengasuh, supaya anak-anak merasa nyaman. Dia tidak merasa ada berat untuk diberi tugas, tapi yang adalah bermain. Lalu yang kedua adalah permainan yang mengandung edukasi. Apakah boleh nggak memberikan nilai-nilai edukasi yang berupa calistung? Calistung boleh, tapi jangan mengajar membaca, menulis, menghitung. Tapi calistung dimasukkan dalam nilai permainan. Misalnya anak melangkah. Yo nak, kita ini ada ular tangga. Kalau kita kakinya gerak 1, kita sebut 1. Langkah kedua kita sebut 2. Tanpa dia sadar, dia sudah berhitung. Tetapi tidak mengajari anak-anak ini angka 1 ya, bukan itu. Jadi sekali lagi, sejak saya di KSKK ini saya menekankan tidak dibenarkan RA itu lalu memaksakan anak harus belajar seolah-olah seperti orang dewasa. Ini anak-anak. Kata kuncinya adalah bermain. Dengan bermain, dia merasakan kebahagiaan. Karena anak ini anak usia bermain, bukan usia berpikir. Nah, ini yang pertama. Sehingga kawan-kawan, yang dibutuhkan guru-guru PAUD. Bu Sumarni kalau mendidik mahasiswanya untuk pendidikan anak-anak mahasiswa yang untuk nanti jadi pengasuh, jadi guru-guru PAUD, harus lebih banyak membuat alat-alat peraga, membuat alat-alat permainan, memberikan banyak edukasi-edukasi yang tidak ada unsur pemaksaan, tidak ada unsur menakutkan, sehingga anak nanti menjadi sayang sama guru, bukan takut sama guru. Dia menjadi orang yang nanti dekat sama guru, dan dia tidak merasa ada penekanan dari guru. Kalau dia itu terjadi, maka guru itu adalah menjadi kurikulum bagi anak-anak. Guru itu adalah sebagai sumber belajar bagi anak-anak. Dan guru itu adalah role model dalam kelas, sehingga nanti gerak-gerik guru, apapun yang disampaikan guru itu jadi bagian adalah pendidikan yang luar biasa. Sehingga mungkin kurikulum untuk membuat alat peraga mungkin agak diperbanyak, Bu. Jadi mata kuliah yang sifatnya teoritis nggak usah banyak-banyak. Mahasiswa itu untuk membaca aja sudah cukup kok. Yang penting itu bagaimana penanaman karakter guru-guru, calon guru-guru itu menjadi yang sangat penting. Kalau saya menjadi orang yang nanti dipercaya untuk mengatur ini secara keseluruhan, seandainya saya akan berikan perhatian negeri ini harus memberikan semua fokus pada pendidikan usia dini. PAUD, playgroup, RA, TK ini harus menjadi utama. Kalau perlu, gajinya ditingkatkan, kesejahteraan tinggi, supaya kawan-kawan ini mengajarnya betul-betul memang ya saya sih sebetulnya mengatakan bahwa guru RA itu guru yang paling ikhlas. Guru RA itu guru yang paling sabar. Coba kalau ada anak-anak di kelas, dia harus ke belakang, dia ngantar, kadang-kadang melorotkan celananya, dia nungguin sedang pipisnya, dia kadang-kadang membersihkan kotorannya. Ini kalau nggak orang sabar nggak bisa. Dan ini sangat penting karena bekal utama karakter anak itu di RA, di TK, di usia ini, sehingga disebut sebagai golden age, karena dia kalau lewat RA, lewat TK, nanti di MI juga tidak dilihat ini sebagai sumber yang potensial, kelewat lagi, nanti sampai di atas rusak. Maka saya berpesan kepada kawan-kawan pengelola prodi PAUD, PAUDNI, PIAUD, saya merasa bahwa ini adalah pejuang-pejuang sejati yang fungsinya sangat luar biasa, yang menanamkan nilai-nilai budaya, nilai-nilai karakter yang luar biasa manfaatnya, sebab ini yang akan tetap menjadi perhatian anak-anak. Saya itu justru masih ingat bagaimana guru-guru MI dulu mengajari saya dibanding mahasiswa, dibanding dosen-dosen saya di S2 atau S3 atau di S1. Jadi pendidikan di era masih kecil itu luar biasa manfaatnya dan membekas luar biasa. Ini yang pertama. Lalu yang kedua, bagaimana dengan teknologi? Kawan-kawan, meskipun saat ini kita masuk era disrupsi, meskipun sekarang ini kita masuk era 4.0, meskipun kita sudah masuki era digital seperti ini, ingat bahwa saya akan mengatakan bahwa anak-anak usia dini hanya bisa menikmati, hanya bisa menjadi penikmat IT. Dia bukan pelaku IT. Saya tidak harus menyajikan kerangka teori dan tidak menyajikan hasil riset, tetapi saya akan mengatakan bahwa anak-anak ini anak-anak yang belum matang. Jangankan matang, ini kan anak masih masa anak-anak. Dia belum tahu. Nanti kalau dia memegang atau dia pelaku IT, ini bisa jadi salah besar. Maka di dalam skema pembelajaran e-learning madrasah, Bu Sumarni, Bu Pak Sigit, kami e-learning madrasah mengenakan sasaran anak untuk memegang IT secara langsung itu setelah kelas 4 MI. RA, kelas 1, kelas 2, kelas 3 MI, kami masih menggunakan kaidah anak-anak ini adalah penikmat teknologi, bukan pelaku teknologi. Maka apakah kemudian anak-anak nggak boleh menikmati nggak boleh memegang teknologi? Kalau sekedar dia pegang screenshot screen smart TV atau mungkin dia laptop mau megang boleh, tapi dia tidak boleh melakukan secara langsung tanpa pendampingan. Apalagi dilepas, sangat nggak boleh. Tetapi yang saya maksud penikmat teknologi itu adalah guru-guru yang diajari menggunakan teknologi yang canggih, lalu dia bisa merancang pembelajaran yang bagus, lalu anak-anak menikmati hasil karyanya guru-guru bisa dalam bentuk mungkin menggunakan layar LCD, apakah itu film-film kartun, apakah itu video-video pendek yang menanamkan pentingnya karakter, dan insya Allah kawan-kawan untuk kalangan Kementerian Agama di RA kami sudah mewacanakan dan insya Allah sudah kami siapkan selambat-lambatnya tahun 2022 nanti RA setiap ruangan sudah akan kami siapkan ada LCD, ada satu laptop, sehingga guru-guru sudah dari awal mengenalkan anak tentang teknologi, tapi dia menikmati teknologi sehingga terangsang pikirannya dari situ. Coba kita perhatikan, mengapa film-film itu bagi anak-anak itu nggak mau berhenti? Karena tuh dia menikmati. Nah, kalau di kelas-kelas dia anak-anak kita sajikan dengan teori-teori yang seperti itu, yang bagus-bagus seperti itu, akan menjadi kebiasaan anak-anak, maka setidaknya secara nggak langsung pendidikan karakter ini merasuk pada jiwa anak-anak, dan itu akan menjadi kepribadian anak-anak ke depan dia memiliki mindset yang bagus. Sehingga kawan-kawan, orang tua anak, guru-guru, ini yang harus diajarkan bagaimana menggunakan teknologi yang benar, memanfaatkan teknologi yang baik, jangan malah dibalik. Mohon maaf ini, ada sebagian kasus orang tua yang karena pekerjaannya repot, ada orang tua ibu-ibu yang memang kerjanya berat, dia harus kerja di kantor, di rumah masih harus melaksanakan sebagai ibu, sebagai seorang ibu di rumah. Maka kadang-kadang anak-anak justru dicekoi dengan teknologi. Kalau perlu dibuatkan game-game yang banyak di situ, mungkin video-video video-video yang banyak di handphone itu, lalu anak-anak diem karena menikmati itu sehingga orang tua bisa bekerja. Ini adalah cara yang sangat salah. Membuat anak diem tapi isinya dia nggak mendidik. Dan tujuannya sederhana, supaya ibunya bisa bekerja, supaya ibunya bisa mengerjakan pekerjaan yang lain, anaknya diem yang penting nggak nangis. Nah ini yang perlu berikan pembelajaran bagaimana calon guru-guru PAUD dari UIN Sunan Kalijogo, kampusku, selama 12 tahun saya di Timoho, Bu.
Oh, nggih, Pak.
Ya, karena saya dulu S3-nya lama. S3-nya lama, jadi ya lama di Jogja. Jadi calon guru PAUD itu harus diberi pelajaran tidak hanya untuk mengajar anak. Guru-guru PAUD harus juga bagaimana mengajari, mendidik ibu-ibunya anak-anak. Supaya ada keberlangsungan antara pendidikan di RA dan pendidikan di rumah sinkron. Jangan sampai di kelas kita ajari yang bagus-bagus, kita ajari harus jujur, harus sederhana, harus kita menghormati orang, kita nggak boleh memaksakan kehendak. Tapi di rumah berbeda. Ingat, ini masa anak-anak akan menimbulkan kegoncangan pikiran dan perasaan anak-anak yang sangat berat. Dia akan bingung. Loh, tadi Bu Guru bilang begini, Bu. Kok Ibu begini? Loh, kamu tuh anak siapa? Anak Mama kan? Iya, tapi Bu guruku. Anak akan bandingkan dengan guruku. Bukan dengan yang lain. Sehingga sebaiknya kawan-kawan guru-guru PAUD dan calon guru-guru PAUD harus bisa bagaimana meyakinkan tidak hanya mengajar anak-anak di kelas, tapi sekaligus memberikan pembelajaran pada orang-orang tua anak-anak, sehingga nanti di rumah dia akan mengalami sesuatu yang seimbang dengan apa yang dirasakan di kelas waktu belajar. Saya kira itu yang bisa saya sampaikan. Saya kepada kawan-kawan calon guru dan mungkin guru-guru yang sudah kawaan, yang sudah senior atau guru-guru pemula di PAUD, saya ingatkan bahwa tugas Ibu, tugas Bapak adalah sangat mulia. Kalau ada nyanyian, Ibu, kaulah wanita yang mulia, derajatmu 3 tingkat dibanding ayah. Maka guru RA ini derajatnya 3 kali dari guru-guru yang lain. Bahkan saya mengatakan lebih tinggi daripada dosen-dosen di S1, di S2, S3. Ingat, tugas guru RA sangat mulia, 3 kali tingkat dari guru-guru yang atasnya. Karena dari RA ini modal utama dari RA. Maka kalau kawan-kawan guru RA, kalau program-program PAUD se-Indonesia ini sangat bagus, melahirkan calon-calon guru yang bagus, saya bermimpi 25 tahun lagi Indonesia bebas korupsi. Membinasakan korupsi itu susah. Yang bisa adalah membudayakan anti korupsi sejak dini. Maka saya itu bermimpi tapi ya nggak punya jalan. Kekuatanku hanya direktur itu kan ya ngurusi seperti ini. Jadi kalau pengen memberantas korupsi, jangan diberantas, tapi dicegah dari usia dini. Maka kawan-kawan, guru-guru RA ini adalah orang yang sangat mulia, derajatnya 3 kali lipat dari guru-guru yang tua, yang senior, yang di atasnya. Maka guru-guru RA ini pantas kalau seharusnya mendapatkan pahala yang besar, syukur-syukur juga mendapatkan kesejahteraan yang gede, sehingga astawabu biqadri ta'ab ini betul-betul dijalankan. Jangan sampai yang profesor-profesor gajinya tinggi-tinggi, padahal dia ngajarnya juga nggak banyak. Lalu yang guru RA yang sangat penting ini justru gajinya kecil-kecil, padahal setiap hari masuk, repotnya masuk. Ya memang profesor susah, nyarinya profesor yang susah. Tapi sekarang kan banyak profesor yang setelah profesor terus berhenti, nggak banyak karyanya, yang banyak juga. Tapi kalau kawan-kawan guru RA kan selalu berkarya, selalu berinovasi, karena kalau nggak punya karya, nggak inovasi, anak-anaknya nangis, anak-anaknya susah, anak-anaknya sedih. Anak itu lebih cerdas loh, perasaannya loh, lebih tajam loh. Bedanya kalau mahasiswa, kalau ngambek lalu demo. Kalau anak-anak RA ngambek, nangis, karena mau demo nggak berani. Jadi sekali lagi, saya ucapkan selamat dan sukses kepada kawan-kawan guru-guru dan calon-calon guru RA, guru-guru PAUD, saya meyakini betul bahwa Anda adalah orang-orang yang luar biasa. Saya yang sejak kecil hidup di kampung, saya tahu perasaan bagaimana seorang hidup di kampung itu, dan RA itu rata-rata di kampung-kampung. Kalau RA di kota ya ada juga, TK di kota juga ada juga, tapi yang banyak kan negara kita di kampung-kampung kita kan. Sehingga para pejuang-pejuang RA, insya Allah Anda adalah orang penghuni surga yang pertama kali, yang paling tinggi. Insya Allah karena Anda ikhlas, Anda sangat sabar, Anda sangat tekun, dan insya Allah mudah-mudahan kalau tidak mendapatkan gaji yang besar, tapi Allah hadirkan pahala yang besar. Allah memberikan kebahagiaan yang sangat besar, memberikan kesehatan yang sangat besar, dan insya Allah itu modal utama untuk hidup itu bahagia. Dalam konsepnya Bu Zaka dulu adalah as-sa'adah fit darain, bahagia dunia dan bahagia akhirat. Saya kira itu kawan-kawanku yang saya cintai, Mas Sigit, saya mohon maaf nggak bisa panjang, Bu Sri mohon maaf nggak bisa panjang. Mudah-mudahan ini bukan pertemuan yang terakhir, karena saya suka ketemu guru-guru RA. Seandainya sebulan sekali saja aku mau juga untuk diskusi sama guru-guru RA. Tapi yang akan datang, saya nggak usah ngomong, saya mendengarkan bagaimana guru RA, pengalaman jadi guru RA saya setuju malah. Jadi jangan selalu saya ngomong. Hari ini saya ngomong sebentar, tapi pamit karena jam 9 saya harus mendampingi Pak Menteri ada acara penting. Tapi lain waktu, Mas Sigit, saya siap gabung tapi mendengarkan bagaimana ceritanya guru-guru RA. Bagaimana semangatnya untuk membangun RA yang bagus. Saya kira penting, sehingga jangan sampai saya orang yang suka ngomong tapi nggak bisa mendengarkan. Pekerjaan tugas yang berat itu mendengarkan. Biasanya orang tuh suka ngomong tapi nggak suka mendengarkan. Kalau saya pengennya ya ngomong bisa, tapi mendengarkan juga mau gitu loh. Maka Mas Sigit kalau ada lagi acara besok, tapi khusus guru RA ya, jangan yang tua-tua, saya ikut mendengarkan saja. Terima kasih, mohon maaf lahir batin, selamat berjuang, kawan-kawanku, selamat juga berjuang, saudara-saudaraku. Semoga kita menjadi orang yang sehat, walafiat, bahagia, husnul khatimah, amin ya rabbal alamin. Wallahu muwaffiq ila aqwamit thoriq. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Pak Direktur.
Jogja siap,
Sama-sama,
Pak.
Mas. Terima kasih.
Siap
Terima kasih.
berkolaborasi Jogja, Pak.
Oh siap, siap Bu.
Nggih.
Pokoknya nanti tahun 2001 kita kerjasama ya Bu.
Sip.
Siap
Nggih.
Pak.
Nah, nanti kita buat program bersama dengan KSKK dan UIN Jogja untuk
Siap.
Siap.
Matur nuwun, matur nuwun.
Terima kasih Pak Direktur. Terima kasih.
Sama-sama Mas. Yuk, aku live ya.
Nggih.
Oke, matur nuwun. Nggih, assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih kepada Bapak Dr. Umar yang sudah menyampaikan materi tadi. Dari yang dipaparkan bisa saya simpulkan beberapa poin yang menjadi highlight begitu. Yang pertama adalah ini tentu yang sudah kita ketahui bersama bahwa anak-anak ini adalah golden age yang harus kita manfaatkan sebaik-baiknya, mengembangkan potensi semaksimal mungkin. Yang kedua, di sini adalah anak hakikatnya adalah bermain. Kemudian yang berkaitan dengan IT, anak di sini baru bisa menikmati saja. Kemudian disarankan untuk ada sinkronisasi pendidikan di rumah dan di sekolah agar nantinya ada keseimbangan begitu. Dan teman-teman mahasiswa semuanya peserta yang memang bergerak di bidang pendidikan anak usia dini harus bangga, harus bersemangat karena seperti yang dikatakan Bapak Umar tadi, selayaknya seorang ibu yang memiliki derajat 3 kali lebih tinggi daripada seorang ayah, guru RA ini juga dipandang sangat mulia, 3 kali mulianya dibandingkan guru-guru yang lain. Terima kasih sekali lagi pada Bapak Dr. Umar atas pemaparannya. Kemudian kita akan berpindah kepada acara selanjutnya, yaitu pembacaan doa dari Bapak Dr. Andes Haji Swismanto MAG. Waktu dan tempat kami persilahkan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillah. Mari kita berdoa. Sebelum berdoa, kita istighfar 3 kali. Astaghfirullahaladzim. Hayyul qayyum wa atubu ilaih. Astaghfirullahaladzim. Alladzi la ilaha illa huwal hayyul qayyum wa atubu ilaih. Astaghfirullahaladzim. Alladzi la ilaha illa. Allahumma shalli ala sayyidina Muhammad walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Hamdan syakirin, hamdan naimin, hamdan yuafi ni'amahu wa yukafi majidah. Ya Rabbana lakal hamdu kama yanbaghi jalali wajhika azimi sultanik. Allahumma shalli ala sayyidina Muhammad salatan tunjinan al-hawali wal afat wa taqdi lana biha jami'al hajat wa tutahhiruna biha min jami'is sayiat wa tarfa'una biha indaka lat darajat wa tuballighuna biha aqsal ghayat min jami'il khairat fil haya wa batil mamat. Allahumma ja'al hadhil istiman mubarakah. Allahumma ja'al auladana wa dzurriyyatina min ibadika sholihin min ahlil ilmi wa ahlil khair. Allahumma ja'alna auladal muslimin, auladal Indonesia min auladis sholihin nafi'in lid dunya wal akhirah birahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Allahumma ja'alna wa dzurriyyatana min ibadika sholihin ya Allah. Allahumma barik lana fi umrina wa barik lana fi aishina wa barik lana fi ilmina wa barik lana fi ma ataitana innaka ala kulli syai'in qadir. Allahumma inna nas'aluka ilman nafi'a wa rizqan wasi'a halalan thayyiban mubarakan wa anta khairur raziqin. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzabannar. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun alal mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Al-Fatihah. Alhamdulillah minasyaitonir rajim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
Waalaikumsalam
warahmatullahi
warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
wabarakatuh. Terima kasih kepada Bapak Dr. Andes Haji Swismanto MAG yang telah membacakan doa. Semoga dengan dilantunkannya doa pagi ini, acara hari ini akan berlancar. Okay, now ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the main event, namely the presentation from speakers from 3 countries, India, Malaysia, and Indonesia. And if you have question, please write it on the chat section, and the committee will choose the question to be answered by the speaker. Nanti jika ada peserta semua sekalian, jika ada pertanyaan, silahkan ditulis di chat. Kami dari panitia nanti akan memilih pertanyaan yang akan dijawab secara langsung oleh pemateri. Okay, to open our discussion, as we know that the COVID-19 has resulted in school shuts all across the world. Globally, over 1.2 billion children are out of school. And nowadays, traditional learning has shifted to online learning. Jadi seperti yang kita ketahui bahwa pandemi COVID-19 ini sudah menyebabkan sekolah-sekolah hampir di seluruh dunia itu ditutup seperti itu. Hampir 1,2 miliar anak di dunia ini terdampak, harus meninggalkan sekolah dan harus berganti dari pembelajaran tradisional yang dilaksanakan di sekolah menjadi pembelajaran online. Dan untuk hal tersebut kita sebagai pendidik harus mempersiapkan semuanya, mulai dari manajemen pendidikan, pendidik, kemudian kurikulum dan media untuk menjaga kualitas pendidikan kita. Okay, for the first speaker, I will introduce you. Our first speaker is Dr. Shazia Mansuri, and she is currently working as assistant professor at Department of Education, Aligarh Muslim University, India, And she has obtained degrees in BSc, MSc, PED, and ED from Aligarh Muslim University. And she has published several articles, research papers in journal of repute in the field of education. And her area of interest include application of educational technology and ICT in teaching and learning of science education. And her research work has been instrumental in contributing to the knowledge and use of IT. To Dr. Shazia Mansouri, the floor is yours. Professor Dr. Bahbibi, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Would you like to present, being the first presenter?
Not a problem, inshallah.
No problem, inshallah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are apologize to the problem in communicating with Dr. Shazia, and we will present to you Professor Madya Dr. Bahbibi Rahmatullah, and I will read you her curriculum vitae. Professor Madya Dr. Bahbibi binti Rahmatullah has a concentrate in engineering science, and she is currently the director for National Child Development Research Center, a national referral center for early childhood education and child development established in Sultan Idris Education University. And Professor Madya Dr. Bahbibi binti Rahmatullah currently involved in research program for developing a comprehensive and integrated model of quality Malaysian early childhood education. To Professor Madya Dr. Bahbibi binti Rahmatullah, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Puan atau Cik Moderator program ni ya. I couldn't get your name. I forgot. Sorry. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, semua boleh dengar ya?
Dengar.
Sekarang ni, yeah, because you know nowadays we tend to do lots of online classes. So with my student, I always like, you know, when they mute their voice, at least they will be, you know, shaking their head lah, angguk-angguk untuk menunjukkan mendengar ya. But a lot of you here, 276 participants, that's a lot. I don't have that much students in my class. But anyway, we are not, it's not semuanya student di sini ya. Kebanyakannya pun ada dosen-dosen ya, pensyarah-pensyarah, direktor-direktor ya. Jadi kita sama-sama berkongsi ilmu, sharing ya. Sesama kita, apa juga ilmu, semoga ilmu itu jadi ilmu yang bermanfaat. InsyaAllah dia akan bantu untuk kebahagiaan, kejayaan hidup di dunia lagi Allah akan beri dan Allah akan beri di akhirat nanti insyaAllah. I'm very happy, you know, I would like to thank Dr. Erni ya, kerana, you know, invited me. Actually, the student from student PAUD daripada Universiti Islam Sunan Kalijaga ni ya, pernah nak datang dulu ya ke center kami, tapi tidak diizinkan Allah, semuanya ada hikmah. And I am no longer the director there, I have to clarify. When she contacted me, I was, but I have moved on. I'm back to my faculty, that's why you see that Department of Computing. However, my PhD juga dulu adalah on child development, but lebih kepada penggunaan engineering dan medical. Jadi I did it in biomedical engineering. When I came back to Malaysia, I did it in UK, and then when I came back to Malaysia, I was involved with this National Child Data Center that we have developed for the Malaysian PAUD. We call it here Pendidikan Awal Kanak-Kanak. But because we have a lot of Indonesian coming, to visit us, lawatan sambil belajar dan sambil belanja, sambil berjalan shopping. The Indonesian, they always say PAUD. So I am used to that word, but in Malaysian it will be PAKK, Pendidikan Awal Kanak-Kanak, tapi lebih halus dalam Indonesia, Pendidikan Awal Usia Dini. So I have come along the way. I mean, like, I have my philosophy, my idea about early childhood pun evolve, over time, with experience. Itu sebab kalau kita yang masih baru-baru kita kena banyak mendengar kepada mereka yang sudah berpengalaman, walaupun kita rasa kita lebih IT celik, more IT literate compared to them, what do they know about all this IT stuff, but actually a lot of pengalaman yang mereka ada sebenarnya yang mematangkan mereka boleh berfikir lebih besar lagi. We should appreciate them, learn from them, and look up for their experience as well. So the topic today, itu sedikit tentang saya, my background, and now I'm in computing. I'm still doing some research on early childhood. Recently I published on the community involvement, how it was, because when I was in UK, my children, I sent them there to the school there. I see how parents and community are more involved compared to when I come back to Malaysia. In Malaysia, I think maybe the quality hidup, we are very busy. We got very busy, kerja that parents have to send the children to schools, not necessarily to be educated, but more to be taken care while they are working. Sementara mereka bekerja, ada seseorang atau satu institusi untuk menjaga, which is sad. So they are not very involved with the education of their children. Bayangkan berapa jam kanak-kanak berada di sekolah dan balik, ibu bapa sudah penat. Jadi bagaimana ibu bapa yang nak mencorakkan anak-anak ini. Di Malaysia pula seawal usia 2 bulan kalau ibu bapa bekerja, ibu itu dapat cuti bersalin, maternity leave, maybe 2 months. Now the government give us 3 months. But in UK, in Scandinavian countries, they have more, longer. 1 year, 2 years of maternity leave, then only they send the children. So here, as early as 40 days or 2 months or 3 months, we have to send our children to the TASCA, we call it TASCA, the nursery, the childcare, and they will be there longer compared to with the parents. So it's quite unfortunate, but that is the world now, the modern world now. So we have to learn how to, best educate our children. Okay, and the topic today that was given to me is on the digital parenting, in these challenging areas. So I think I'll be sharing the screen now. Kejap. Can you see what's coming out in the screen? I can't see it actually. Is it the slide or my notes? Is there anything coming up? Ada screen apa ya yang keluar?
Not yet. Yes.
Not yet, yeah?
We can't see anything. Yes.
Oh, I see. Hold on. Not be able. Itulah sebab saya baru guna Zoom ni daripada iMac, so it's a bit. I have been using it all with my HP previously, so I didn't share the screen. And can someone share my screen? I mean the slide that I sent. It's giving me a lot of firewall here, so I have to. Maaf ya. It was much easier with the Windows compared to the iMac, I guess.
Okay, we will help you, Professor.
Do you have my slide that I emailed yesterday?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, could you share that? I mean, I don't know, it's not coming up here.
Yes, we'll try to open your slides from here.
Yeah. Am I screen sharing? It's sharing something here, but I don't know what are you seeing.
We can see some notes here.
Is it notes?
Yes.
I see, hold on. I will be. That is my notes for the talk. Yes, I get. So you can see the screen, the slide?
Yes,
the
we can
cartoon.
see the slides.
Yeah, yeah. All right, not the notes, yeah. Okay, boleh nampak ya?
Sudah, nampak.
Okay, all right, hold on. All right, so digital parenting in this challenging area. Before that, I have to introduce the center I am in right now. We are called Diligent at UPSI. Data Analytics is a short form for Data Analytics and Knowledge Management in the Faculty of Arts, Computing and Creative Industry. I got my PhD previously from UK, from Oxford University, where I did my biomedical engineering. Right, let's go on with the digital parenting. Dikatakan saya boleh berkongsi ya dalam bahasa Malaysia juga. Sebenarnya saya rasa lebih dekat ya bila bercakap dengan bahasa Melayu ya. Walaupun saya tidak pandai berbahasa Indonesia, I feel closer. You know, sometimes bahasa dia melambangkan bangsa ya. So you know, do excuse me when I going in BM and BI. It's just that when I feel like I want to convey something yang lebih dekat ya, saya akan switch ke bahasa Malaysia. Alright, so power of social media. Saya pasti semua di sini, okay, all of us at least have some sort of a social media existence, okay. We call it the world without boundary, now borderless world, dunia tanpa sempadan. Kalau kita buka ada banyak newsfeed kita ya, penuh pelbagai gambar ya, keluarga kita ataupun ibu bapa ya menceritakan tentang pencapaian kanak-kanak ya. Daripada kecil, lahir lagi, okay. Mereka tidak sabar nak berkongsi gambar, okay. Itu pun teragak-agak mereka lewatkan sikit sebab takut ya, sebab kan tidak boleh awal takut ain ya. Daripada kecil hingga anak itu besar ya, ibu-ibu sangat gembira, ibu dan bapa, terutamanya ibu. Some of them do open their personal account for the children as well, okay, untuk menjadikan dia memorable moments and so on. So basically the social media is not being used to document just the memorable moments. I do find people use it to communicate with their family. Okay. And also some people go onto the social media to get advice, parenting advice or sharing advice with other people. So this is a term coined as share parenting, basically they are sharing the advices in the social media ya. Mungkin banyak ya kita boleh lihat, dan kadang-kadang kita juga pergi ke social media untuk mencari expert or specialist or other ibu ya yang berkongsi pendapat atau pandangan dalam membesarkan anak mereka ya. So that is what I meant with power of social media. However, we have to be warned of these risks, involved. Not all are sweet or rosy, ya. Bukan semuanya wangi dan baik sahaja, ya. sometimes we are not so sure of the harm or the risk that comes with that sharing. Tambah pula kalau kita buat tanpa ada without knowledge, without any maklumat ataupun ilmu untuk menggunakan social media ini untuk buat parenting ataupun sharing. So risiko dia daripada paper research yang saya baca, yang saya berminat, saya follow, kita boleh kategorikan ada 3 risk. There are more, but these are the main 3 risks. One is the tangible harms, maksudnya mudarat yang ketara. Contohnya data collections, digital kidnapping, identity theft. There are the first category, which is visible and tangible harms. The second is more on hak kanak-kanak itu sendiri secara umum, children's right. And the third is the effect of our sharing or parent sharing on the children's understanding, mengenai asking permission, what is private, what is public, and the digital citizenship. Sebab sekarang kita bukan warga negara Indonesia sahaja atau warga negara Malaysia, we are also a digital citizen, kan? Jadi kanak-kanak punya kefahaman dalam menjadi warga digital, So let me talk about or bring you through this discussion on the tangible harms. What do I mean with tangible harms? Terma-terma mungkin ada yang sudah biasa dengar, mungkin baru. Apa itu penculikan digital, apa itu identity theft. Mungkin ibu bapa tidak sedar bahawa gambar-gambar yang mereka kumpulkan tu atau video-video yang dikongsikan tu, digunakan oleh pihak-pihak yang tidak bertanggungjawab, yang ada bad intention. So mungkin tidak seperti physical kidnapping. Physical kidnapping, kanak-kanak dibawa dan terus diculik. Tapi identity kidnapping ni, digital kidnapping ni, dia mensasarkan kanak-kanak. Basically apabila orang asing dia mencuri foto-foto anak kita, di bawah umur terutamanya, dan menyiarkan foto itu kadang-kadang seperti katanya anak dia sendiri untuk mendapatkan likes, some people likes attention, jadi dia mahu orang ramai likes, dan dia mahu likes yang banyak pada Facebook dia, pada account dia, social media dia, tapi sebenarnya bukan gambar dia sendiri, dia menyamar. Dan ada juga yang menggunakannya untuk pengiklanan anak angkat, a lot of scam going on. Jadi mereka menggunakan foto dan video, dan benda ini semua sebenarnya sangat merisaukan, tapi kalau dia, it can go another level, they can use that to menyamar, to pretend that they are that child. Mungkin kanak-kanak berumur 12 tahun, bawah umur 12-13, ramai sudah ada akaun-akaun di media sosial, dan mereka akan berbual dengan kanak-kanak seusia mereka yang lain. Jadi mereka akan menyusup kehidupan kanak-kanak yang lain dengan menggunakan gambar-gambar kanak-kanak itu tadi. Jadi bayangkan, kanak-kanak ni mereka cepat percaya. Kita selalu kata, berjaga-jaga kalau orang dewasa bercakap dengan kamu, tapi bagaimana dengan kanak-kanak yang lain bercakap dengan mereka? Jadi mereka rasa mereka sedang bercakap dengan kanak-kanak yang lain, satu sama usia, ataupun lebih kurang usianya, tetapi sebenarnya ia adalah seorang dewasa yang sedang menyamar sebagai kanak-kanak. Dan ada juga yang very obvious yang kita biasa dengar tapi mungkin kita jarang lihat sebab kita bukan pencari gambar-gambar itu. Contohnya laman web pedofilia, yang akan menggunakan gambar-gambar yang innocent tadi yang kita paparkan, video-video tadi, untuk menjadi tatapan mereka, people with sick mind, they will see the image in so many perspectives that they want to see. So anak-anak kita, gambar mereka yang menjadi mangsa, Jadi sharing ni, sharing, saya rasa dia sudah telah berconteng saya punya screen. Anyway, sharing, there's a report by Barclays UK, dia bank yang besar di UK. Dia kata pada tahun 2030, sharing yang ibu bapa sekarang sedang buat, akan menyebabkan, mereka meramalkan, based on the track now, 2/3 identity theft berlaku sebab sharing, kerugian ratusan juta ringgit, hanya dengan alamat, nama, tarikh lahir sahaja, dengan foto mereka boleh simpan maklumat Bila kanak-kanak ini sudah 18 tahun, mereka boleh gunakan untuk menjalankan aktiviti-aktiviti scam ya. Okay, so next I think it's on the children's right. What do I mean? Children's right. Bagaimana ia boleh jadi pula satu kesalahan ataupun pencerobohan kepada hak kanak-kanak apabila ibu bapa sendiri yang berkongsi maklumat anak mereka di laman sosial ya. Kerana kanak-kanak ini they have their own right for privacy, rahsia peribadi. Selalu kalau orang lain ya nak datang minta maklumat tentang anak-anak kita, okay, kita yang decide, okay, kita nak bagi pada siapa? Guru, klinik, sekolah, hospital, okay. Tetapi bagaimana kalau ibu bapa itu sendiri pula yang pergi menyebarkan atau berkongsi maklumat tu di media sosial? Kalau katakan kanak-kanak dengan ibu bapa mereka selari, dua-dua suka ya, suka berkongsi gambar dan so on, tidak ada masalah. Tetapi ada satu artikel ya, profesor undang-undang ni, terutamanya di Amerika, mereka melihat ya, di mana bila kecenderungan kanak-kanak, bila dia sudah sedikit besar, dia sudah tidak selari, dia tidak suka, okay, rahsia peribadi dia dikongsikan oleh ibu bapa dia. Ada banyak ya, ada video di Amerika, ada prank ya, terlalu ramai orang subscribe to that YouTube channel dan ibu bapa tu suka tunjukkan aktiviti harian mereka bersama anak-anak, tapi sehingga telah menghampiri batas child abuse ya, dan akhirnya mereka telah didakwa dan mereka hilang hak asuhan kanak-kanak. That might be a very extreme case, bagaimana parenting ni boleh menjadi satu bencana, tapi things could always go wrong. Saat yang waktu kita share sebenarnya niatnya baik, tapi telah menjadi masalah yang besar ya. Jadi kita kena juga ingat anak-anak kita ni, terutamanya pada usia yang kecil ya, mereka ni ada digital footprint sebab semuanya sekarang di internet. Jadi bagaimana nak tahu digital footprint kalau sekarang ni kita semua Google ya, nama saya Bibi Rahmatullah ya. Kalau saya banyak sharing atau parents saya pernah sharing dari kecil, semuanya akan keluar. Boleh insya-Allah jumpa. Tapi so far berapa yang saya telah allow sebab mak ibu bapa saya pada zaman itu tidak ada IT ya, jadi tidak berapa celik, tidak berkongsi ya, hanya simpan gambar saya dalam album sahaja di rumah. Jadi kebanyakan data yang anda boleh temui, whatever you can find about me online is whatever I have allowed or other people have shared about me. Alright, so that's what you can find. Okay, jadi kita ni dewasa, kita boleh pilih apa yang boleh disiarkan, apa yang tidak boleh. Tapi bagaimana dengan kanak-kanak? Bagaimana pula halnya anak-anak tu rasa, hak mereka tidak suka. Bila mereka dah besar ya, saya ingat lagi saya ada anak-anak ni, saya selalu ambil gambar dengan foto dengan handphone. Bila dia besar, sekarang ni contohnya dia sudah 17 ataupun 16, dia lihat balik gambar dia atau video dia pada umur 2-3 tahun, dia rasa malu. Jadi kalau saya telah pernah uploadkan benda tu pada usia dia sekarang yang sudah hampir dewasa, dia rasa malu. Kenapa ibu pernah share gambar ni dulu? I feel very embarrassed, Jadi kita tak tahu adakah dia akan sama. Jadi itu yang kita kena perlu berhati-hati. Bukannya pada waktu kecil dia suka, jadi bila besar dia akan suka juga ya. Jadi kita kena sangat berhati-hati tentang digital footprint kita. Dan yang risk yang ketiga, kategori ketiga yang saya kongsikan tadi adalah kefahaman kanak-kanak itu sendiri tentang asking permission, asking agreement, what is private, what is digital citizenship. Sama ada kita mahu atau tidak, sama ada kita cuba halang ataupun kita cuba jaga, kanak-kanak sendiri sudah ada social media mereka sendiri. Okay, mereka juga telah jadi warga digital. Jadi mereka ni akalnya masih belum matang, prefrontal cortex-nya kalau kita belajar ya tentang perkembangan otak dan semua, mereka belum matang. Mereka dalam proses untuk matangkan ya. Jadi mereka perlu menjadi warga negara yang bermoral, bertanggungjawab, knowledgeable ketika menggunakan digital media. Tetapi kemampuan mereka terbatas. Okay? Itu sebab kita biasa dengar the cyberbullying among the children also happening. Okay, I think in Malaysia there was also cases until the student dia membunuh diri ya. kerana penggunaan media sosial dan telah dibuli kerana pengetahuan cetek untuk menjadi warga digital yang baik. Jadi dari siapa yang akan mendidik? Tidaklah boleh kita letaknya semua pada guru Ibu bapa juga bertanggungjawab secara langsung dari ibu bapa untuk jaga privasi, jaga kerahsiaan maklumat anak-anak mereka. Kemudian baru anak-anak ada rasa autonomi atas diri mereka. Bila ibu bapa minta persetujuan, okey bolehkah ibu share gambar begini, mengapa gambar mengapa ibu mau share and so on, baru mereka akan rasa faham, oh ibu pun minta permission. Jadi kalau saya pun mau share gambar kawan, saya pun perlu minta permission. Saya tak boleh prank, kemudian upload, kemudian ketawakan kawan-kawan apa itu private, apa itu public Jadi mereka pun akan jadi bijak dalam berkongsi maklumat. Dan ibu bapa perlu bagi sokongan mungkin mereka ada peer pressure kawan lain pun berkongsi, saya pun mau berkongsi orang lain buat, saya pun mau buat. Tapi kita boleh beritahu mereka bahawa what is right, what is wrong, the moral behind it. Sebab kajian menunjukkan kalau kanak-kanak yang rasa ada autonomi atas hak peribadi mereka rasa dihormati, mereka ni grow up to become lebih fulfill tahap kepuasan hidup mereka lebih tinggi apabila mereka memasuki alam dewasa dan kanak-kanak kalau kita tidak ajar batas dalam perkongsian maklumat, oh ibu boleh buat, ibu boleh kongsi, saya pun boleh kongsi takut mereka ni sampai rasa tidak bila semua hal tentang mereka baru berjalan pun dah kongsi, baru makan kongsi, baru belajar itu ini semua perkara kita kongsi, mereka akan rasa tidak ada hak dah untuk kerahsiaan maklumat diri mereka. Very unfortunate. Jadi kita mahu kanak-kanak faham dan kanak-kanak dihormati, kanak-kanak sedar sebab kita lah model yang utama yang paling rapat dengan ibu bapa. Jadi ada yang bertanya, saya pernah masuk satu bicara di RTM Radio TV Malaysia, dia kata jadi tidak bolehkah langsung berkongsi nak gembira dengan pencapaian anak di laman sosial? For me it's a very tricky question actually. Susah saya nak terus menjawab, manusia nak terus satu jawapan yang tepat yang kena terus beri. Tapi kalau kepada yang nak berkongsi juga beberapa panduan boleh didapati untuk menjagalah at least keselamatan image identiti anak kita di alam digital. Saya memetik ada satu laporan Pesuruhjaya banyaknya dari United Kingdom. Mereka beri amaran, mula-mula ibu bapa sepatutnya perlu pause sekejap, jangan terus eager pause, think of the impact, apa erti perkongsian itu terhadap kehidupan kanak-kanak sekarang dan akan datang. Jangan kita dalam keseronokan kita lupa tentang efek pada diri mereka. Sebab kita kadang-kadang tidak dapat agak kesan dan impak perkongsian tu. Sama juga dengan guru kalau saya boleh berkatakan, sebab kebanyakan di sini adalah akan menjadi ibu bapa, mungkin adalah ibu bapa dan sebenarnya guru. Jadi guru pun banyak ambil gambar-gambar Kita ada banyak pelajar-pelajar yang datang buat praktikal Kita warn sebenarnya memang tak boleh guna handphone. Kami tak membenarkan kecuali untuk ambil gambar tentang pembelajaran. Tapi I know there's a push from the parents. Parents nak tengok gambar. Macam mana kanak-kanak anak saya di sekolah, itu ini Jadi sukar untuk guru kata no. Tidak mau ambil semua Nanti kalau terambil satu orang, nanti kena ambil semua orang. Kan? Nanti ibu bapa ini pula tidak puas hati. Jadi, the best way is, you have to put a limit there as a teacher. But as a parents, kita pun jangan over excited. Okay. Kita perlu pause, think of the impact. Ni gambar ni kalau saya share, kemana akan pergi? Dan kita boleh warning, kata ibu bapa tolong jangan share ni, but they are gonna do that because they are very excited about it. Their children can read, can do this and that, all the cute stuff. But ada masalah pernah jadi dekat Malaysia ada guru ni pergi ambil gambar anak tu menjawab sesuatu, terus viral jadi ibunya pun jadi marah Sebenarnya guru nak share sebab nak mendidik konon orang lain, tapi telah memalukan kanak-kanak itu sendiri. Jadilah kita well-informed social media user, make sure the private, terutamanya kalau di Facebook ibu bapa kita boleh sembunyikan siapa sahaja yang boleh lihat. Tetapi kalau kita nak dapat ramai subscriber, terpaksa open kepada semua. Tapi kalau sebenarnya niat kita berkongsi untuk kita dokumen, untuk kita pun satu hari 10 tahun nanti anak kita mau tengok balik, make sure it's private. Okay, make sure Google, algoritma Google ni apa semua tidak dapat nak mencari gambar tu ya. Kita tetapkan some password and so on supaya tidak ada pencerobohan data ya. Sebab niat kita untuk kenalan rapat dan saudara mara. Tapi kalau niat untuk pilih menjadi viral dan subscriber, niat itu sudah salah ya. Hard can access gambar seperti saya kata tadi, those who we trust only can access the picture. Ya, dan jangan sekali-kali, don't ever give away our physical location. Okay, tagging kan, kita berada di mana, anak kita birthday-nya di mana, hari ini sekolahnya di mana, and so on. Kita jangan tag lokasi dan minta kalau kawan kita pun jangan tag, sebab walaupun penculikan kanak-kanak ya, the kidnapping rarely happens from this online, but the risiko are there. They can collect, kita tak tahu ya, mind criminals ni bagaimana, because hopefully we are not criminals, but mereka ni bijak ya, mereka akan mencari apa juga maklumat yang terbocor. So actually dekat handphone kita ada data EXIF, nama file itu, dia akan berikan lokasi tepat GPS di mana gambar tu diambil. Saya rasa dengan Facebook atau Instagram dia memang akan remove, tetapi pada yang lain kita kena removekan sendiri. Jadi kena belajar bagaimana mahu keluarkan maklumat EXIF ni daripada telefon bimbit kita ya, from our camera digital juga. Dan gambar-gambar yang cute ya, kita rasa cute, innocent, foto tak bersalah, kanak-kanak sedang mandi di swimming pool, pelbagai pada mata kita sebenarnya inilah sasaran mudah for the pedophiles, for the people who wants to use it to get whatever profit dengan menjual gambar kanak-kanak. Jadi gambar-gambar yang cute-cute begitu janganlah dikongsi langsung ya, dalam keadaan yang tidak berapa cute lah. Pada anak-anak tu pun sebenarnya akan malu ya untuk lihat balik gambar tu. Jadi and follow the golden rule. Maksud golden rule ni, kalau kita tak suka orang lain siarkan gambar kita tanpa persetujuan, maka kita pun tidak boleh siarkan gambar orang lain tanpa persetujuan. Ya, jadi kita beri pilihan. Untuk kanak-kanak kecil, kita minta izin, kita beritahu mengapa. Itu cara kita mendidik. Kan kita kena beritahu, banyak bercakap dengan mereka. Okay, so dia rasa didengari, dia rasa dipahami, dia rasa dihormati. Kepada yang lebih tua, kita boleh minta beritahu ya, minta izin dengan baik ya, kata ibu mahu share, sebab ibu sangat gembira kamu berjaya dapat ini. We have to discuss with them ya, sebab mereka pun ke arah adult. Dan ingat ya, internet ni sebenarnya long lasting. Kalau sekali kita share, sekali kita dah petik, sekali kita sudah upload, susah nak dilenyapkan walaupun kita delete balik ya. Once there is always there. Jadi benda ni sebenarnya benda yang baru, perkongsian first moment itu ini sebenarnya kita masih belum faham efek dia tentang kepada perkembangan anak-anak kita. Jadi fikir gambar ni walaupun kita akan delete ya, tapi fikir banyak kali sebelum kita share ya. Jadi harapnya kepada yang mau share juga akan gunakan panduan ni serba sedikit supaya bawa manfaat berbanding bahaya ya, yang akan berlaku pada anak-anak kita. Jadi sebagai akhir, kesimpulan akhir saya kepada semua di sini, saya sendiri pengguna internet yang tegar ya, lama zaman IRC apa semua dulu, dan juga membaca kajian-kajian ya. Sebenarnya saya boleh simpulkan tidak ada satu jalan mudah untuk kita semua kongsi cerita. Sebenarnya kita suka berkongsi cerita. Kita berani, kita kongsi cerita ya, sama ada online ataupun offline ya. Sebenarnya kita mahu berhubung sesama manusia. Kita kongsi sedikit daripada hidup kita, foto, album, video ya, kepada orang yang datang ke rumah kan kita suka tunjuk ya. Jadi kita harapkan untuk eratkan lagi hubungan ya. Dan kalau orang tu orang baru pula, kita harap untuk jalinkan hubungan yang baru dengan orang yang sama thinking dengan kita. Tetapi kita kena ingat kita ni gatekeeper, gate opener. Gatekeeper maksudnya kita ni penjaga pintu ya. Privacy anak kita, kita yang lindungi. Ya, kita gate opener, kita putuskan bila yang boleh kita share supaya kisah mereka, hidup mereka menjadi part of the community, a bigger community. Ya, so that is gate opener. Mana yang kita boleh benarkan, yang mana kita kena simpan. Ya, dan ada kebaikan dalam perkongsian. Setiap benda ada kebaikan, tapi berhati-hatilah ya untuk kita manfaat kelebihan pada masa sama kita nak mengelak bahaya. Jadi pada saya yang final, if I may, I just want, this is a new thing. Saya punya fasa hidup ya daripada IT sangat tegar ya. Saya memang sangat menggunakan teknologi. I love using the technology, the advancement of technology. I'm also contributing towards it, through my research dulu ya. Saya guna teknologi untuk bantu ibu yang mengandung dan juga selepas melahirkan ya, melihat perkembangan anak-anak mereka. Tapi ya, saya rasa kita kena balik tengok tentang model kejadian insan. Saya rasa ini yang masih missing throughout my research years, throughout my formal education as well. We don't really know. We take it as a given. Kita rasa, oh ini yang kita percaya. Ya, apa itu model kejadian insan yang kita percaya untuk mendidik diri kita dan juga anak-anak kita. Kita perlu tahu untuk kenal diri kita ya. Jadi sebagai guru ya, guru kena lebih faham adakah kanak-kanak ini ataupun cara kita melihat insan, adakah mereka ini sekadar minda dan jasad yang minta diisi. Ya, mereka ni kosong jadi kita perlu isi. Ataupun sebenarnya kalau kita patah balik kepada perkataan educare, educere, maksud latinnya adalah untuk membawa sesuatu yang ada di dalam untuk keluar. Nilai-nilai yang baik untuk dibawa keluar. Sebab kanak-kanak ini lahirnya dengan fitrah. Ya, mereka ni baik, kita semua ni baik. Ya, tetapi telah di-condition. Ya, jadi kita mahu preserve apa yang baik. Tadi pun ada bapa bercakap tentang berfikir ya, kanak-kanak ni kita mahu banyak main ya, let children be children. Mereka suka bermain, tidak perlu berfikir seperti kita. Sebenarnya pada saya betul Pak, mereka juga sebenarnya berfikir, tapi mereka berfikir mereka lebih dekat dengan mereka punya naluri. Kita ni sudah banyak fikirnya hanya tinggal di otak. Sedangkan otak ni berfikir ni, kalau menurut satu neurocognitive scientist ni di Oxford University, Guy Claxton, dia kata ini sebenarnya yang paling rendah. Ini adalah fakulti berfikir yang paling rendah. Logic, reasoning itu dah ini. Sebenarnya kita sebagai whole human ada lebih besar lagi. Kita ada intuition, bukan emotion, intuition. Kita ada nafs, kita ada rohani yang kita boleh gunakan untuk berfikir dengan lebih mendalam. Jadi kanak-kanak sebenarnya mereka lebih rapat, lebih dekat. Itu sebab mereka banyak bertanya. Saya dapati. Jadi kita jangan lihat kanak-kanak ini seperti kosong yang perlu diisi. Tapi sebenarnya seperti sesuatu yang ada potensi yang mahu dikeluarkan potensi itu. Jadi kalau ibu bapa pun melihat anak-anak mereka seperti itu, mereka tidaklah akan passionate hanya untuk mengajar akademik sahaja untuk fill the otak tanpa lupa tentang soul kita, rohani kita, akal kita ya, whatever innate intelligence yang Allah telah beri. Jadi teachers kita semua ini ada satu saya lupa ya nama orang tu, dia panggil kita ni guardian of civilization. Kita lah penjaga peradaban. Ya, sebab kalau orang nak menceroboh peradaban ni, dia akan tukarkan guru-guru, pemikiran guru-guru. Jadi kita ni kena jadi guardian ya. Kalau pernah melihat movie Guardian of the Galaxy ya, itu sangat besar ya. Tapi kita guardian of civilization. Jadi kita mahu jaga peradaban kita. Jadi kita sendiri kena kenal siapa diri kita ya, dan kita baru boleh ajak orang lain untuk kenal juga diri mereka, kanak-kanak tu ya. Jangan kita terikut-ikut dengan Darwinism, model Deka yang bercakap tentang pemisahan body dan jasad, bifurcation of body and mind. Kemudian didapati manusia ni rupanya bukan body mind, jadi tampal SQ, tampal EQ, tampal ESQ, tampal semua QQQ. Sebab didapati tidak lengkap. Mengapa kita tidak bermula dengan whole human, holistic itu, kemudian kita bawa naik. Bukannya kita ambil manusia hanya sebagai minda jasad, kemudian kita tampal. Ya. Jadi saya suka ya mengikut Syekh Muhammad Nakib Al-Attas ya, bercakap tentang kejadian manusia. Mungkin itu sesuatu yang boleh juga guru-guru PAUD ya belajar, sebab kita telah di condition ya beberapa ratus tahun ini. Jadi kita lah, terutamanya di Indonesia, di Malaysia ni, Eastern ya, kita masih lagi kuat berpegang pada falsafah, tapi tanpa sedar kita telah diceroboh, oleh pemikiran-pemikiran yang mementingkan hanya jasad dan minda. Ya, jadi insya-Allah saya harap kita gunakan teknologi ini. I come across this one word, I like it very much. Dia kata preserve the best of what the tradition has to offer, but optimize the very best of what the modern world has to offer. Teknologi ini hanyalah tools, ya, dan dia berubah dengan sangat cepat. Dia hanyalah tools, dia berubah dengan sangat cepat. Jadi kita belajar, pada masa yang sama kita preserve apa yang ada pada tradition kita, orang bijak pandai kita dulu, dan kita gunakan dengan consciously. InsyaAllah bila kita dapat menggunakan the best of both world, insya-Allah tidak hilanglah kebahagiaan, kejayaan, sukses di dunia dan juga di akhirat, insya-Allah. So I think that's all from me. Hope it is of benefit. May Allah forgive whatever shortcoming. Forgive me for apa-apa yang tersalah kata. Kita buka ada Q&A ke?
Nanti di akhir sesi.
Baik,
The next presenter will, yes.
Baik.
Thank you so much, Professor Madya, Dr. Bahbibi, Jihan Rahmatullah, for the wonderful presentation. And we will move to the next speaker, Dr. Shazia Mansuri. Oh, I'm sorry, before we will move to Dr. Shazia Mansuri, I will summarize what Professor Madya, Dr. Bahbibi binti Rahmatullah present. Jadi untuk menyimpulkan apa yang disampaikan oleh Profesor Madya, Dr. Bahbibi, jadi bagaimana tadi kita untuk mendidik anak itu dalam era saat ini yang terbaik seperti apa. Dan di sini lebih banyak dibicarakan tentang digital parenting seperti itu. Dan saat ini memang banyak sekali orang-orang tua yang membuat second account untuk putra-putrinya dan hanya untuk segera dokumentasi atau komunikasi seperti itu. Tapi di balik hal tersebut ada bahaya yang mengintai seperti itu. Seperti ada pencurian data, terus kemudian pencurian identitas seperti itu. Dan kita juga terkadang jika tidak meminta izin pada anak kita seperti melanggar hak-hak anak itu sendiri. Kemudian di sini bagaimana untuk menghentikan hal-hal yang negatif tersebut, kita harus mempause ketika apa yang akan kita share itu kita pikirkan terlebih dahulu, apakah akibatnya, bagaimana nanti ketika apa yang kita share itu akan sampai di mana, seperti itu. Kemudian when we upload something on the internet, it is last long forever. Jadi ketika kita sudah mengupload sesuatu di internet itu sifatnya adalah long lasting. Akan ada seterusnya seperti itu. Walaupun kita sudah delete, mungkin saja masih ada yang tersimpan seperti itu. Di sini Profesor Madya Bahbibi juga menekankan tentang peran orang tua, yakni sebagai gatekeeper and gate opener, dan kita harus menjadi guardian of civilization seperti itu. Thank you so much, Profesor Madya Dr. Bahbibi Rahmatullah. Okay, we will move to the next speaker. Dr. Shazia Mansuri, hello, are you ready to present your presentation? Dr. Shazia, can you hear me? Kita tunggu sebentar ya.
Alright. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, I able to hear you clearly.
Thank you.
Okay, before you present your material, I will read your curriculum vitae. And Dr. Shazia Mansuri is currently working as assistant professor at Department of Education, Aligarh Muslim University, India, and she has published several articles, research paper in journals of repute in the field of education. And Dr. Shazia area of interest including application of educational technology and ICT in teaching and learning of science education. Dr. Shazia, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to all of you. It's quite early here in India, but I'm all set. Thank you so much. Before I begin my presentation, I would like to introduce, as I have been introduced very well, that I am working as a professor in Department of Education, assistant professor in Department of Education at Muslim University. Before I move on to my presentation, I just want to know whether my voice is audible. Is it clear?
It's clear. It's clear.
It's clear. That's it. All right. I like to share my presentation here. And before that, I would request you all who are present as the participants. There's a lot number that I can see, 280 participants here. So, mashallah. So I would like to congratulate, first of all, Faculty of Education, State Islamic University, who have invited me for that. For this, I would like to address Professor Madia Bahdi, who is here, who has been presenting right now. It's a pleasure to meet you, ma'am. I would like to state here that before I begin my presentation, I would request all the participants to kindly open a web browser in their mobile app, in their mobile or laptop, whatever device you are using, and there you have to open one website that I would request you to join my polling session. As I go for my presentation, you are requested to join that session. All right. So I'll show you what is the code that has to be entered. Let me start presenting before. And yes, is it visible to all of you?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right. So my topic that has been assigned to me for today's webinar, international webinar, is new ways of learning in new normal period. Not to introduce myself, but then yes, this is what I want you all to do. Please open a web browser and type joinmyquiz.com. All right, so you have to type in your web browser joinmyquiz.com, and there you will be asked to enter a code as a student. So the code is 006455. If all of you have done, please let me know, and we will keep that aside and continue with our presentation. So whether you are on the mobile or you are on the desktop, whichever, or laptop, please go to web browser, type joinmyquiz.com and enter the code 006455. If some of you have done, then please let me know. It's even in the chat box, joinmyquiz.com with a code 006455. Were you able to do? And please enter your name also, so that when the poll goes on, the results come with your name. Can somebody give me a prompt that they have joined or not? All right, wonderful. Somebody can type in the chat box yes or no. I would be able to understand it. I request the technical team to please help if there is any confusion. Were the participants able to join?
I think yes.
Oh yeah, people are raising hand. All right, that tells me this. I'll just check on through my window also that how many of you were able to join.
Oke, bagi para peserta silahkan masuk di joinmyquiz.com, kemudian dimasukkan kodenya yang tadi ya.
Yes, wonderful. I have participants here, those who have joined, and they are joining. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. I'll then continue with my presentation, and when I require you to move to that quiz, then you have to go to that quiz. All right. So before I started with letting you know what is the new normal. Actually, this is a word, this is a terminology that has come up, which is about new normal. So for those who were in the COVID situation in the last few months, for them, the new normal was the change or transition from traditional learning to what we call as online learning. So this was the new normal that we were expecting in the education system. This was the new normal that we were expecting in all other sectors of the economy. So whether it be health services, whether it be the education services, whether it be anything related to other economies like agriculture, industries, etc. So the normal became what? The online and digital modes. This became the normal. So when we talk of education system, in the pre-COVID times, we were having a traditional classroom setting where we as teachers used to reach the schools and the classrooms, and the students, they used to gather around, sit together, learn and work together. So this was the traditional mode of learning before COVID times. However, the scene immediately changed when the COVID or the pandemic came into picture. Now what happened, suddenly the authorities, the guidelines were made in such a manner that you have to switch over from traditional physical settings to online settings. Now, what is this online setting or online learning? I hope many of you even before COVID situation were using these online modes of learning, not just for learning, but also for teaching purposes, maybe assessment, maybe evaluation, etc. So these online modes were being used, but in the COVID situation, this became the only mode of teaching and learning. And even today, when we sit here in October 2020, we are still having this online mode of learning where I am presenting my presentation through this webinar, which is through online virtual mode. Correct? So this is the transition that we have seen as a new normal. But then I will not mention just the new normal that we are having right now, but again, you should expect as an educator the second type of new normal that we will be having, which will be after this COVID situation ends, and that would be maybe blended learning or only traditional classroom. That will depend upon the teachers and the students who will be working in the field. Right? So this is what new normal is. How can you distinguish? We can just say that it is a transition from traditional classroom to online learning in the COVID times and maybe to blended learning post-COVID, right? Next, I would like to first gather information on what situations were there when COVID actually came into picture. What actually changed in the COVID-19 situation? So there were, I would focus on education system. I would like you to understand the impact that COVID-19 had on the education system specifically. All right. So as you can see in my presentation, there were around a survey was done by World Economic Forum in April 2020, and it was found that it was in April. You can note down the dates. It was in April that they found that around 1.2 million children in 186 countries were left out of their classrooms as the schools got shut. This is the first major change that we saw in COVID-19 situation. The schools shut down, and around 1.2 billion children globally, all over the world, they were out of the classrooms. Now, what happened next? This impact of COVID-19 was seen in all activities of the country, of the nation. So specifically, we will talk of education system. It was also seen during this time that there was an disruption in the activities of higher education as well, right? There was a disruption in the how there were exams to be held, there were academic calendars, there were course completion activities, there were admission procedures, etc., which were lined up. But then, because of COVID-19, all these they came to a halt. So this was again one change that we saw in COVID-19 situation. Then next is what? A report, which is again a research report by Global Video. They found that, Report Ocean, they found that global video conferencing market actually grew. And it grew with a high rate. You can see 9.2%. Right? Now, this 9.2% growth rate in global video conferencing market simply implies that how people quickly and very actively engage themselves in online learning. And that is why video conferencing became a very important part of this teaching learning process, right? What more did we see? We also saw that this by UNESCO, as UNESCO has mentioned very effectively, that the COVID-19 pandemic has forced hundreds of countries to issue localized and countrywide closure of educational institutions, and thus impacting around 90% of the world's student population. So this was the effect that was seen during COVID-19 on the education system. 90% of the world's total student population, they were out of the educational institutions, they were either quarantined, their learning was impacted, right? Now, how are we going to deal with that? So these changes, actually what they gave rise to a sudden increase in the use of language apps, virtual tutoring, video conferencing tools, learning softwares, and which we total together call as online learning. So these were the changes that actually led to new ways of learning in the new normal period that we have, which we call as COVID-19 for now, right? Now, I would like my presentation to move from those changes to understanding what changes were brought in various aspects of the education system, how each change actually contributed to a change in the teaching and learning process in the new normal, right? So there were transitions, there were transitional changes, of course, because of this shift from the traditional classroom to online learning. These shifts and these transitional changes were observed at these particular levels, as you can see on the screen. There were changes in the learning methods, there were changes in the ways or strategies of learning and teaching, there were changes in the use of applications, devices, softwares, there were changes in the skills and the training of the teachers as well as the learners. There were changes in the innovative teaching and learning strategies that were used by the teachers as well as the students. There were changes that were observed at the assessment level also, evaluation, right? So all these changes actually mark a significant impact on what we call as teaching and learning process. And if you want to club all this, the main important factor was there was integration of technology in the education system, right? We were able to see and make ourselves aware of the technology integration and utilize it in the education system. So initially, if I did not have been using a computer in my classroom or for my group activities, maybe later on in the COVID situation, I was forced to use this device for my students' learning, right? And this forcing or this transitional change would definitely prove beneficial in adapting to these changes that COVID-19 brought in the world, right? I would like to mention here that if anybody has a question, kindly note it down, and then after I finish my presentation, you can always ask me. I would be very happy to address questions from the participants. So either note it down, write in the chat box so that we can go through later on. All right, thank you. So next, moving on. So I'll take up the first thing. What were the changes in the environment, the learning environment? So as you can see from the picture, it's very clear that there were transitional changes which took place from traditional classroom settings to online learning environment or the use of LMS, learning management systems. So initially, the environment was comprised of a group of students sitting together and teacher addressing them in the physical settings. But then later on, from face to face, it became more of the virtual kind. Right? So online environment is like a child sitting with a laptop or a mobile or a computer system, and he or she is engaged in the virtual world where the other students are also sitting separately. So there was a shift of public space to personal space of learning, right? So this was one shift that was seen. Learning platforms. Initially, when we are in the traditional classroom settings, we usually don't much utilize these learning online platforms. But with new normal, we are now using a lot of learning platforms in our system, education system, right? What are these learning platform systems? As you can see, I have given certain examples here. Udemy is one, Coursera is one, Khan Academy, Udacity, edX, NPTEL, MIT, My Open Courses. And apart from these open MOOCs, that what we have platforms, we have other platforms, virtual learning platforms, which we call as, like for instance, WhatsApp, email, PowerPoint presentations, G Suite, Google Meet, Screencastify, Zoom application that you're using, etc., etc. Now, the significance of these learning platforms, why there was a change of these learning platforms? The important point was that these learning platforms provide flexibility. Flexibility in what? Flexibility in the usage of the learning resources. Right? If I am not available at this, suppose I'm taking a class. I have a student, like for instance, of 50 students in my class, but only 40 were able to join. Right? Because there was no internet connection or there was no electricity supply, so they were not able to join. But later on, the same class that was being recorded, they can see it later on and can learn from it. So this helped the students to make their learning more flexible. What happened in the traditional classroom setting, where the students sit and the teacher speaks? What happened there? The students and the teacher have to be present at the same time. There were rigid spaces, right? But in online learning, there is flexibility. Then, of course, interactivity is high on these learning platforms. I can interact, I can question, I can search resources, I can explore resources as much as I want. So as a learner also and as a teacher also, the interactivity has increased. I can talk to people sitting in Indonesia right now. I'm in India and I'm talking to people sitting in Indonesia. How is it possible? Just because of these learning platforms that we have in hand, correct? The learning has become more individualized. Look, in traditional classroom setting, we used to have group learning. There was a group learning process going on. The teacher used to address the students, they used to question, he used to answer, she used to answer. However, in these learning platforms, online learning platforms, we have individualized concept. Differentiated learning is possible. Each student with his or her own need will be able to identify his learning needs and then fulfill them accordingly. How? Suppose, for instance, there are 10 students sitting in my classroom right now in online learning. Now, I said something like for instance, I said flexible environment. Now, some students, they understood, okay, what is flexible environment? They got the meaning. But one or two students were not able to understand. So what they will do? They will, once the class is over, they will search the content related to flexible environment. They will explore it. And this will help them to understand. So each student, according to the need, will be better able to address his or her learning needs. Of course, more personalized spaces. I'm sitting here in the comfort of my home right now, and I'm able to interact and talk to my students, right? The students also, they can sit in their own spaces, their own homes, and they are able to carry on their learning. I can make these learning platforms or my learning resources more secure and safe by utilizing, as Dr. Behbi has already mentioned, how to take safety measures while you are using internet browsing, etc., or the resources, how you can provide that security and safety to your resources. And of course, synchronous and asynchronous learning platforms. They are there. Synchronous learning platforms are those where the content is being generated at the same time. Suppose I am talking to you right now. This is a synchronous mode of learning. At the same time, you are receiving the content, right? In asynchronous, I send an email to somebody in the participants, and I say that okay, read it afterwards. So that person will be reading it afterwards, or maybe I WhatsApped him, right? So this is what we call as asynchronous. I send it right now, but the student will read it later on. So this is how learning platforms are being utilized. Then of course, another important change that we have seen in COVID-19 was the infrastructure. The infrastructure that has to be utilized for effective learning in new normal. First of all, it is very important to understand that you have to make it accessible to all the students. There should not be any digital divide. Digital divide meaning some students having the devices and some students not having the devices. So what would happen? Ultimately, the students who have the devices will be able to learn, while those who do not have the devices or connectivity will be left out of the learning spaces. So this has to be addressed. We have to provide devices, software, tools, and kits to the students so that they are better able to learn. They are better able to participate in the learning process. These changes have to be done, and these are being seen. Internet connectivity has to be provided, electricity, proper electric current has to be given. Then of course, the quality resources should be made available. There should be high speed connectivity. There should be responsible use of digital platforms. There should be internet access. Low cost devices should be provided to the students. For those who cannot buy themselves, suppose a computer, a laptop, or a mobile, they have to be provided by the government, of course. Otherwise, then only there will be learning. Otherwise, it will not take place. And that is why we need to focus on digital equity. What is digital equity? Digital equity means that you have to ensure that every student, whether he or she comes from any socioeconomic status, language, race, geography, physical area, cultural background, gender, any characteristic, but we cannot deny him or her education, digital education. So for that, it is important that you have to provide access to technologies, communication, and information resources to the learners. This is what is called as equalizing digitally, right? Of course, another important change that we have seen is in the skills and training of the teacher as well as the students. Many teachers, they were not well versed in using these devices and technologies and platforms. But now, most of the teachers are using them. I'm using one. We are using Zoom platform right now, right? So I'm using a MS PowerPoint presentation here to share my screen. Right? We are using a laptop. I'm using a laptop. Somebody must be using a desktop. Somebody must be using a mobile phone. So these learning platforms have been utilized. But for this, again, we require skills. We require ICT competency. We require collaborative dialogues. We require designing. We require certain tools and communities, online communities, which will help in improving these skills and training. Many of you must have attended certain training programs also to make yourself well versed in the utilization of these skills and training of these ICT platforms or learning platforms, right? So this is again important both on the part of the teacher and the student, that you have to have necessary skills and training to utilize these resources in a better manner. Look, everybody can Google something. If I ask you to Google one word, you can do it. But then how to safely and securely and in an effective manner, how to address and explore is important, right? So these skills and training are again important. Then these are, I have just taken it from a research work of 2004 by May, Max Poran and Stuart Young. They have actually mentioned the various skills that are important for both the teachers and the students to actually make better utilization of online learning. You can note them down or you can take a picture of it. It's a very comprehensive and good content which deals with necessary skills to develop e-content or online content, right? So there are time-saving skills, there are e-moderating skills, online community skills, website design skills, online pedagogical skills, and in that we have reflective teaching skills, soft skills, hard skills, everything. So these are the various skills that have to be again utilized by the teachers and the learners in this new normal. Of course, there was a change in innovative teaching learning strategies. Now, what strategies to be utilized? We have platforms, we have the skills, but how are you going to actually make the students and learn? So these are certain 10 points that were actually, they are again taken from a research, and they actually said that you have to frame objectives, you have to keep the course very simple, you have to understand what knowledge the students already have. The content that you are sharing with your students should be logically organized. I started with what change were brought about in COVID-19, and now I am taking up what changes have actually led to these new ways of learning. So you have to be very organized in e-content delivery. You have to be very sure that how you are going to utilize these online ways, right? Then apart from that, this is again a very good model which shows that how far the learning strategies can be changed in online process. What you can do, you can provide case studies to the students, you can ask question and answers, you can provide them self-instructional materials, and you can also, as a teacher, you can give them lectures, presentations, and references of the textbooks. For collaborative learning, which is again an important part and which has been highly emphasized in online learning, you have to make sure that you provide them problem-based learning, discussion forums, and teamwork, etc. And this would completely lead to new ways of effective learning and teaching in the new normal. Now we have we have these various again tools that can be utilized. I am sure all of you might be knowing them. Not all, then maybe some of these tools maybe you might be knowing. Like for instance, Microsoft Sway, Google Documents and Slides, Google Classroom, Moodle, then Edmodo, Google Slides. We have H5P, Zoom, Skype, live webinar, Google Hangouts, Microsoft Teams, etc. Somebody is annotating on my screen. Please stop doing that. So these various tools can be utilized for making the teaching learning process more effective. So this is just an example I wanted to show you that how you can better utilize. If you're not using, then go ahead, please use it. This is the time that we can use these various tools. Now coming to what I said, that there was a change in the evaluation process as well. The assessment methods, how the student will be assessed, how the student will be evaluated. Now you can easily, we can easily teach the students by making them, come to the video conferencing platforms and asking them to join us and listen to us. But then the ultimate aim is what? That the students should learn. So how are you going to understand and evaluate that the students have achieved the objectives of learning? So as you can see, there's Bloom's taxonomy. Every educator actually goes through this Bloom's taxonomy. And regarding these Bloom's taxonomy, how are you going to have online assessment methods? So as I can show you in the picture, that we have various tools and platforms. We have Kahoot, we have iClicker, we have quizzes that I will be using in a few minutes right now. Then we have multiple choice, true, false, etc., simulation, games, flashcards, presentations, projects, portfolios. So you can have so many online tools available which can help you in this formative assessment. I would like to mention here an important thing, that usually when we were in the school system, in the education system in the traditional manner, what happened? We had like 6 months of a learning period, and then we had a examination system, or 1 year of learning period, and then we had an examination. So such an examination is what we call as summative assessment, which occurs at the end. But formative assessment is, suppose I have taught one topic today to you. I'll take the assessment of whether this topic has been understood by my students or not. So this is what we call as formative assessment. After each topic, or maybe after each unit, you will be able to understand whether the students have learned or not, or is there any feedback that the students are giving, is there some weakness that that the students are facing, some problem. So formative assessment helps you in a stepwise evaluation. You don't have to wait for all the syllabus to get over and then start your evaluation, but even after one unit or one topic, you can assess the students or evaluate the students. These are certain online class assessment techniques that we can use in the new normal again. You can have student generated test questions. Students come up with their questions. You can pull them up and then you can discuss in the discussion forum. You can have classroom opinion polls using Poll Daddy, Zoho polls, Blackboard surveys, etc. And even quizzes. We have polls. Then we have ztings.com, etc. We can have feedback in the form of email, discussion boards, blogs, or feedbacks to improve the learning process. So this is always very important. Assessment and evaluation is always very important because it actually helps you in understanding how much the students have learned and also understanding how you can better improve your learning and teaching process. So this is very important, and that is also to be conducted in a manner which is efficient and judicious also. Now, various stakeholders of learning. I am a teacher, you are a teacher, there might be students. Only we two people are not the only people important in learning process. Apart from us, teachers and students, we have parents and family, we have our community, we have our policy makers, and then of course the government. So all these people, all these categories have to play an important role while you talk of new ways of learning in new normal period. The government has to take care of the needs of the people in terms of infrastructure and funds. The policy makers have to make certain policies which will make sure that all the students are able to reach out to the education system in the online mode. The community has to help the students by providing experiences, by providing the right kind of facilities and services. Right? The parents, what is the significance of parents and family? It has increased in this online period, in this COVID situation. Now the parents, they sit with their students and they are able to see how much the students are learning. Now the child cannot run away by saying that I have gone to the class and I have attended the class. Now the parents will sit and they will see whether the student is whether the child is attending the class, and they will even be able to get the feedback from the teachers also. Right? So all these people are important stakeholders of new ways of learning in new normal period again. Now, coming almost to the last slide that I have, these are the various strategies, tips and tricks that I would like to give you before you start handling, or you already must be doing it. So there are certain things that we can always keep in mind while we are using these new ways of learning. You have to understand that you have to recognize these online classroom environments. First of all, it's very important that these online classroom environments have to be identified. Their limitations have to be identified. Their merits have to be identified. Another important, please excuse me. Another important point is that you have to have a proper internet connectivity and available for both the faculty and the students. Once it is there or it is not, then it doesn't work well, right? Otherwise, they will not be able to join. Another important point is that you need, as a teacher, you have to have sufficient preparation and rehearsal before you start delivering the content. Sometimes it happens, the teacher starts and he or she finds that the students are not able to see the screen. He or she is not able, is not audible. Maybe the content is not available on the screen, etc. So there are certain problems that may come over the period of time. So those have to be actually addressed, and they have to be addressed in such a manner that the students are better able to utilize the time that has been allotted in the online classroom, right? Again, you have to understand the guidelines, rules, etc. for video conferencing etiquette. You know what? I will give you an example. I conduct webinars and I conduct workshops on the online mode. Sometimes I find that I am sitting straight on the chair, participants are also, but one or two participants are lying down on the bed with their mobile phones in hand and they are enjoying it. So what are these? These are not the etiquettes or manners. These manners and etiquettes have to be, understood both by the teachers and the students, that when you are sitting in an online classroom, you have to be as you sit in a traditional classroom. You have to follow certain etiquettes and manners there also. Then, of course, not just using the internet resources, but also developing our own resources with the use of communication and collaboration tools, discussion boards, etc. Please make sure that you provide your students and learners the content and material to them for learning purpose. You have to make it available to those students, right? Also, before you start making your presentations, your content delivery, or your learning, you have to make sure which audience are you dealing with. What is the audience that you are dealing with? You have to see that. Who are you addressing? Are you addressing small students, or are you addressing the students who are they are of higher class or higher education? So you have to see that also. You have to encourage discussions. It is important. Otherwise, what would happen? Only the teacher will be speaking and the students will be listening. So there will be no active participation of the student. So you have to encourage dialogue. You have to encourage discussions. You have to promote interactivity. The voice should always be clear enough. The pronunciation should be right, etc. You have to talk naturally. It should not seem as if I am reading something from somewhere. It should be very natural in the online mode as well. We have to try to avoid disturbances, which can be background disturbances, etc. So these were taken from the Indian Express website from June 2020, and you can find that also. That is it. Thank you so much. This is my presentation. But now I would like all of you to move to the quizzes web browser that I had asked you to log in, and just quickly go through this quiz that I have for you, and let me see how many of you learned today what I was trying to discuss and how many of you already know it. So I'll stop sharing my screen here, and I would request all of you to kindly join the quizzes.com. 148 participants have joined. I'll start the quiz immediately so that you don't waste any time. All right. I hope the first question is available on the screen. Just a second. Just a second. All right. The first question has been answered by only 18 people, 20. How many of you use the following? Let's see how many of the participants that we have in our webinar will be using these Google Classroom, Zeetings.com, quizzes, video conferencing app, any learning management system. Very less people have joined in the quiz. Okay, the time's up, and let's see what we have in store here. We will have the results. So most of you have joined Google Classroom and video conferencing apps in their teaching learning process. Good. Next question. one video conferencing app which you use in teaching learning. Zoom, Qteri. You have to just write one video conferencing app. Any, that could be any, either Zoom or any other. It could be any. So most of you have mentioned Zoom as the app that you use for video conferencing. Thank you. Next question. According to you, has online teaching proved helpful to the learners? All right, most of you are agreeing to it. Some of you say disagree, and some of you say to some extent. Good. This is very motivating to see that you are participating in this quiz and you are able to give your opinion. Thank you. All right. So here we have the leaderboard which shows that most of you said that you agree that online teaching has proved helpful to the learners. Let's quickly move to the next question. Can you name a learning management system which you have used in teaching learning process? Okay, Dr. Sijit has been the first person to answer. All right. Learning management system, I think we do use it. Initially, we never used to have learning management system, but then now we have. So there are many answers to this. Moodle, then somebody is saying e-learning from campus, Edline, eNows. Then we have other answers which talk of vClassroom, all right. You have to name one. All right, time's up. So there have been various learning management systems, but usually what we use nowadays is Moodle, and Moodle is just like any any classroom system where you have teaching material available. Google Classroom, yes, very good. Somebody, Dan Laila, has mentioned Google Classroom. It is also being effectively used. So these platforms actually give you accessibility through the content and also taking up questions and answers, and the students, they actually give the assignment, submit the assignments, you can evaluate them. So it works as like a system of education again. Okay, next question we have. Is it visible? The next question. All right, for this we have even the leaderboard coming up, so you can see the responses of the participants as well. I hope it's visible on your screen as well. Next question. Can somebody just prompt me with Dr. Sijit, is it visible on the screen? The next question.
Yes, it is visible. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Please go ahead. I'll stop this here because I want the participants to have certain questions for me if they have, so that without wasting time and without taking the next speaker's time, I can handle certain questions if you have. So please go ahead. Do I have to go through the chat box? Because I'm sorry, but I can only understand the English typed questions. I won't be able to understand the questions which come in your language. So somebody can help me out with those questions maybe. And the English typed questions I can address here. Like for instance, as I can see, sorry, I don't find any English typed question. So if somebody can help me here, maybe the technical team, to read out the question so that I can answer accordingly.
We will tell you the question when the question and answer session comes.
Okay, all right. So we have a separate session for that?
Yes.
All right. Okay, then I think I'll just say thanks here. Thank you, Dr. Sujit. Thank you, the technical team, for allowing me for this presentation. And and I'm very glad to be a part of this international webinar. Thank you so much. And of course, questions we will take up later on. All right. So I'm done. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Shazia, for the wonderful presentation. And here I want to summarize what have you talked about in Indonesian. Jadi yang bisa disimpulkan dari presentasi Dr. Shazia tadi adalah kita harus memahami konsep new normal itu sendiri, yakni dari perpindahan dari traditional learning, kemudian menjadi online learning di masa pandemi ini, kemudian menjadi blended learning di saat sesudah post-COVID. Kemudian dikatakan bahwa di sini adalah kita banyak sekali sekarang tersedia platform-platform untuk belajar seperti Khan Academy, My Open Courses, yang sifatnya itu sangat fleksibel, interaktif, dan bisa disesuaikan apakah itu sinkron or asinkron seperti itu. Kemudian untuk para stakeholders di sini semuanya harus memainkan peran yang penting, masing-masing bisa dijalankan untuk mendukung online learning sendiri, baik dari guru, orang tua, pendidik, community, dan lain sebagainya. Okay, thank you, Dr. Shazia. Okay, we will move to the last speaker, Dr. Candidate Ali Murphy. Can you hear me?
Ya, Mbak. Bisa dengar suara saya?
Bisa. Baik, sebelum disampaikan presentasi dari Dr. Kandidat Ali Murphy, saya akan membacakan sedikit kurikulum vitae beliau. Dr. Kandidat Ali Murphy ini adalah alumni UIN Sunan Kalijaga Yogyakarta S1 Manajemen Pendidikan Islam, kemudian melanjutkan di UGM dan Hokkaido University Japan dengan jurusan Manajemen Pendidikan Tinggi, dan saat ini adalah mahasiswa S3 UIN Maulana Malik Ibrahim Malang. Ya. Concern beliau adalah di manajemen pendidikan Islam, knowledge management, dan pendidikan multikultural. Untuk Dr. Kandidat Ali Murphy, waktu dan tempat kami persilahkan.
Oke, terima kasih Mbak Aini. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hayat liyabluwakum ahsanu amala wa huwal azizul ghafur. Honorable Dr. Hajah Sri Sumarni, Dean of Faculty of Education and Teaching Science, State Islamic University of Sunan Kalijaga, and then Dr. Umar, Director of KSKK Religious Affairs Indonesia, Prof. Madya Dr. Bahbibi, Department of Computing UPSI Malaysia, and Dr. Sazia Mansuri, Department of Education Aligarh Muslim University. And special thanks to Associate Professor Dr. Sigit Purnama has given chance me to involve in this agenda. And I would like to share about my presentation. At this time, I would like to present about our topic, knowledge management, KM, in PIAUD institution and the impact of COVID-19. This is our topic. And then maybe I would like to present mixed language, because I think the most of all participants from Indonesia is not foreign, so most used in Indonesian language, but is mixed. So this is my presentation agenda. There are 4 points. The first, knowledge management significance in PIAUD institution, yeah. And then second, knowledge management in the era of the COVID-19 crisis. And third, KM and the impact of COVID-19. And the last, key element for success in the COVID-19, how to success the PIAUD institution. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a definition of knowledge management. Actually, knowledge management, according to the Dalkir, Patrick and Nguyen, Basri and Ranjan from India, yes. Knowledge management is the deliberate and systematic coordination of an organization, people, technology, process, and organizational structure in order to add value through reuse and innovation. Jadi manajemen pengetahuan itu sesungguhnya itu mulai berkembang tahun 2000-an. Kemudian setelah tahun 2000-an mulai kemudian diimplementasikan di dalam lembaga atau institusi pendidikan. Nah, menurut Dalkir, Patrice Nguyen, dan Busri Ranjan bahwa KM itu adalah sistem koordinasi yang dilakukan secara sengaja antara orang, kemudian teknologi, dan proses. Dalam rangka apa? Untuk meningkatkan nilai dan innovation. Itu adalah definisi knowledge management. And then why implementation of knowledge management is be important to implementation in PIAUD institution, because the one of the core values in institution is knowledge. So implementation of knowledge management is be important and significant. In Indonesia called Tridharma, the education, the core of education is knowledge. So implementation knowledge management is be important to add value and innovation. And then there are 3 keywords in knowledge management. Jadi ada 3 kata kunci dalam manajemen manajemen pengetahuan. Sebentar, ada kendala teknis. Saya ulangi lagi. Bisa dilihat, Mbak Moderator?
Bisa dilihat.
Oke. Ada 3 kata kunci di dalam manajemen pengetahuan. There are keyword in knowledge management. First, people. According to the Kimis Dalkir, Patrice and Nguyen, the first keyword is people. How to focus in people? So that first, focus on empowerment stakeholder. Jadi knowledge management itu adalah yang pertama, itu adalah fokus kepada orangnya, yaitu pada penguatan atau pemberdayaan stakeholder. Dan yang kedua adalah managing perception. Dan yang ketiga adalah building competence and individual commitment, yaitu membangun kompetensi dan individu komitmen. Dan yang keempat adalah pada kata kunci ke orang itu adalah mengapresiasi setiap pencapaian di dalam sebuah organisasi atau lembaga pendidikan Islam anak usia dini. Dan second keyword in knowledge management is process. Proses in knowledge management start from acquisition or memperoleh ya in Indonesian, memperoleh pengetahuan. Dan yang selanjutnya setelah mendapatkan atau memperoleh pengetahuan adalah creation, menciptakan pengetahuan. Kemudian yang selanjutnya adalah storage ya, menyimpan. Jadi kalau di dalam pembelajaran misalnya memperoleh pengetahuan adalah dengan sebuah materi pembelajaran seperti itu. Kemudian kita upload di YouTube atau di platform digital online learning, itu adalah storage penyimpanan. Dan kemudian yang selanjutnya adalah analysis and data mining. Jadi menganalisis dan memberikan makna data. Kemudian ditransfer dan diseminasikan. Dan yang terakhir tentunya diaplikasikan, divalidasi. This is a process. And the third keyword in knowledge management is teknologi. Bahwa tadi dari dua pemateri sudah banyak sekali disinggung bahwa dalam situasi pandemi COVID-19 ini adalah penekanan penggunaan teknologi menjadi sangat penting dan determinan, menjadi sangat menentukan. Nah, apa yang kemudian dipertimbangkan, the consideration using technology, bahwa ada 4 pertimbangan menggunakan teknologi pendidikan, dalam hal ini konteks pendidikan Islam anak usia dini. Yang pertama adalah harus yang user friendly ya, jadi yang bersahabat baik dari tampilan, kemudian dari menunya, dan tentunya kalau kawan-kawan mahasiswa itu harus yang low cost ya, yang berbiaya murah. Mungkin kalau menggunakan Zoom kuota kalian semua juga akan terkuras. Jadi nanti ketika menjadi guru di lembaga PIAUD, gunakanlah teknologi yang kemudian memudahkan semuanya. And then the consideration is adaptable. Jadi penggunaan teknologi itu harus menyesuaikan atau beradaptasi dengan situasi dan kondisi yang berlaku di Indonesia misalnya dalam konteks ini. Dan yang ketiga adalah bahwa teknologi yang digunakan must be integrated ya. Harus terintegrasi antara satu platform kemudian dengan platform lain atau supporting platform. Misalnya menggunakan Zoom. Jadi harus terintegrasi dengan YouTube. Agar apa? Ketika orang tidak menggunakan YouTube, tidak menggunakan Zoom, maka bisa live streaming menggunakan YouTube. Seperti itu. Nah, kemudian penggunaan teknologi juga harus mempertimbangkan transformasi pengetahuan dan analisis. Jadi teknologi ini penggunaannya pada bagaimana teknologi itu harus menjadi media transformasi pengetahuan. Pengetahuan yang semakin luas dan kemudian mendalam dan dijadikan untuk analisis seperti itu. Jadi itu ada 3 kata kunci di dalam knowledge management. Ada people, proses, dan teknologi, sehingga dalam situasi COVID-19 ini 3 elemen, 3 kata kunci ini menjadi sangat penting dan menentukan. Itu ya kawan-kawan semua. Kemudian sebenarnya actually how to the implementation of knowledge management in the era of the COVID-19 crisis. Apa yang kemudian ada perubahan apa di dalam lembaga PIAUD itu sendiri? Apa yang harus dirubah dan apa dampaknya? Yang pertama adalah acquiring, ya. Jadi memang sinkron antara teori-teori tadi sampai kepada slide selanjutnya. Yang pertama adalah acquiring. Bagaimana lembaga PIAUD itu adalah untuk mendapatkan pengetahuan baru untuk layanan pendidikannya. Kemudian yang selanjutnya adalah benchmarking. Jadi pelaksanaan implementasi knowledge management dalam era COVID itu untuk tercapainya sebuah tujuan maka harus dilakukan benchmarking. Nah, benchmarking itu dalam rangka untuk meningkatkan keunggulan yang kompetitif dengan kompetitornya atau institusi-institusi yang sejenis. Misalnya RA Abu Bakar misalnya, itu harus benchmarking ke RA Islam terpadu misalnya. Itu adalah dalam rangka untuk menciptakan kompetisi yang unggul. Kemudian yang selanjutnya feedback. Knowledge management untuk mencapai keunggulan kompetitif maka diperlukan feedback. Bagaimana menggunakan feedback? Itu adalah dengan misalnya survei atau kuesioner. Nah, itu adalah dalam rangka mendapatkan feedback untuk mengimprovisasi praktek-praktek terbaik dalam lembaga PIAU. Dan yang selanjutnya, apa dampak perubahan selanjutnya adalah tentang utilizing, ya, memanfaatkan, mengoptimalisasi tim. Jadi di lembaga PIAU seyogyanya di COVID-19 ini semakin meneguhkan kerjasama tim yang efektif untuk nah itu. Kemudian setelah pemanfaatan itu, maka selanjutnya adalah melakukan developing dan implementing, yaitu mengembangkan metode pembelajaran atau program-program training dalam rangka menjalankan proses pembelajaran itu secara efektif, efisien, dan tercapainya sebuah goals atau tujuan. Sehingga seperti yang disampaikan oleh Dr. Sazia Mansuri, pelatihan penggunaan platform mulai dari Zoom, kemudian G Suite, Google Classroom, Coursera, dan sebagainya itu harus dilakukan secara maksimal. Itu adalah tugasnya seorang manajer di dalam lembaga PIAU. Kemudian, and the last change knowledge management in the era COVID-19 crisis is conducting organizational events. Nah, ini sudah dilakukan oleh Associate Profesor Sigit Purnama, bahwa cara membangun atau menciptakan budaya pengetahuan di dalam organisasi diciptakan misalnya knowledge contest atau knowledge fair. Nah, salah satunya misalnya giat gebiar ilmiah akhir tahun. Ini adalah dalam rangka conducting organizational knowledge, dan ini tentunya harus selalu ditingkatkan dari waktu ke waktu. Nah, itu dalam rangka mempromosikan aktivitas-aktivitas pengetahuan. Itu kawan-kawan, ada beberapa perubahan atau dampak dari COVID-19 dalam praktek implementasi knowledge management di era COVID-19. Jadi ada 6 kata kunci, yaitu bagaimana secara efektif memperoleh pengetahuan, kemudian untuk mencapai keunggulan dilakukan dengan benchmarking dan feedback, dan didukung oleh kerjasama tim dan program pelatihan dan menciptakan budaya of knowledge melalui knowledge contest maupun kemudian knowledge fair. Itu. Kemudian sesungguhnya apa sih dampak COVID-19 itu yang diharapkan oleh para pelaku lembaga PIAU? Dalam survei Knowledge Management World itu ada 4 perubahan yang diharapkan adanya dampak COVID-19 ini untuk mencapai praktek atau implementasi knowledge management yang efektif di lembaga PIAU. Nah, yang pertama itu adalah transformation. Digital transformation at high speed. Jadi transformasi digital dengan kecepatan yang tinggi. Itu yang sesungguhnya diharapkan. Jadi ada hikmah di balik pandemi COVID-19 ini dalam proses pengelolaan atau manajemen lembaga PIAUD. Jadi transformasi digital ini mengadopsi cara kerja baru. Tujuannya yang pertama mengadopsi cara kerja baru, dan yang kedua itu adalah menciptakan produktivitas. Nah, ini yang sering kita rasakan hari ini, bahwa memang terdapat transformasi digital yang begitu cepat. Nah, kemudian memberikan efek pada cara kerja baru yang sebelumnya misalnya kita work from office WFO kemudian menjadi WFH, work from home, kira-kira begitu. Nah, itu adalah salah satu dampak, dan harapannya pada akhirnya apa, menciptakan produktivitas yang tinggi terhadap apa yang kita kerjakan di dalam lembaga itu. Kemudian yang diharapkan selanjutnya adalah konsisten, more reliance on knowledge management for consistent information and guidance. Jadi dengan adanya knowledge management diharapkan mendapatkan informasi dan panduan yang konsisten. Nah, prakteknya apa di dalam lembaga PIAUD? Bahwa peserta didik atau dalam hal ini orang tua siswa itu mendapatkan informasi dan panduan yang konsisten dalam pelaksanaan pembelajaran. Nah, itu biasanya ada juknis atau juklak ya, petunjuk teknis atau petunjuk pelaksanaan. Itu yang dimaksud dalam hal ini. Jadi ada informasi yang utuh dalam sebuah kondisi atau keadaan. Kemudian, and then third is digital transformation and the move to the cloud. Ya. Jadi ada transformasi digital dari perangkat lunak kepada awan ya, cloud. Jadi semua data yang sebelumnya di dalam perangkat lunak kemudian kita pindahkan kepada cloud atau awan. Itu yang diharapkan. Misalnya dulu kita menyimpan data itu di data D atau di drive atau di flash disk, maka di dalam era COVID-19 ini diharapkan semua data itu disimpan di cloud. Agar apa? Memudahkan interaksi atau komunikasi dengan student atau dengan orang tua. Itu adalah dampak yang diharapkan. Jadi perpindahan antara yang di dalam hardware atau software itu kemudian dipindahkan ke cloud atau awan. Nah, there are many platform in the cloud such as iCloud and then Google Cloud and Microsoft Node dan sebagainya. And the last change that expected in the knowledge management and the impact of COVID-19 is the need for the latest technology, high tech. Jadi membutuhkan teknologi yang sangat tinggi sekali di dalam pelaksanaan pembelajaran. Misalnya kita tidak hanya menggunakan beberapa program, tetapi juga kita bisa menggunakan teknologi termutakhir. Nah, ini diharapkan kawan-kawan semua memahami hal ini, ya. Misalnya penggunaan jaringan WiFi juga harus sangat kuat sekali. Kemudian program-program software itu harus yang termutakhir, kira-kira begitu. Nah, itu adalah dampak yang diharapkan oleh para pelaku pendidikan dalam konteks knowledge management dan dalam krisis COVID-19. Jadi ada transformation digital, konsistensi informasi, dan cloud, dan yang terakhir penggunaan teknologi yang tinggi. Nah, kemudian bagaimana agar sukses dalam pelaksanaan implementasi knowledge management? Kalau tadi ada 6 elemen, kemudian ada 4 perubahan yang diharapkan dalam COVID-19 ini, jika kita peras itu menjadi 3 elemen, yaitu yang pertama lead, yang kedua rating, sesuai dengan tema kita hari ini, yaitu Rethinking Early Childhood Education in the New Normal Era. Dan yang ketiga adalah support. Yang dimaksud lead itu adalah pada ranah people tadi. Bagaimana people tadi itu dioptimalkan, dan pada titik temunya atau kuncinya itu adalah peran seorang pemimpin. Nah, peran pemimpin yang seperti apa? Adalah pemimpin yang memberikan edukasi tentang pembelajaran anak usia dini. Itu adalah pada elemen lead. Jadi kata kuncinya adalah pada pemimpin. Kemudian yang selanjutnya adalah rethinking atau berpikir kembali. Nah, pada era situasi COVID-19 ini bagaimana kita memikirkan kembali kepemimpinan yang ada di dalam lembaga pendidikan anak usia dini. Sudah efektifkah belum apa yang menjadi kepemimpinan kita hari ini? Dan yang ketiga adalah support. Support dalam hal ini adalah supporting optimal teaching and learning environment. Jadi lingkungan pengajaran dan pembelajaran yang optimal didukung oleh teknologi tadi. Jadi kalau ini mewakili people, kemudian rethinking mewakili proses pada pelaksanaan atau manajemen PIAUD, dan yang ketiga supporting teknologi. Itu adalah kunci sukses dalam manajemen PIAUD di era COVID-19. Jadi kesimpulannya ada di dalam slide ini, yaitu lead, rating, dan support. Dan terakhir, ini yang bisa saya sampaikan, ada sebuah quote atau nasihat dari Lailah Gifty Atika mengatakan, an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. Jadi investasi pengetahuan itu menjadi hal yang sangat penting dan menjadi sangat yang menarik. Itu pentingnya pengetahuan atau manajemen pengetahuan di lembaga pendidikan anak usia dini. Dan dalam konteks PIAUD dan juga dalam konteks situasi krisis pandemi, bagaimana cara kita mendidik anak, kita tak boleh lupa terhadap apa nasihat atau advice from Ali bin Abi Thalib radhiyallahu anhu. Beliau mengatakan, educate your children according to the era because they live not in your time. Didiklah anakmu sesuai dengan zamannya, karena mereka tidak akan hidup pada zaman. Jadi didiklah anak itu sesuai dengan zamannya, karena beda dengan zaman kita. Nah, dalam hal ini adalah bagaimana secara masif penggunaan teknologi itu harus kita optimalkan, tetapi tak lupa untuk menekankan kepada aspek emosional, emosional dan moral. Itu yang bisa saya sampaikan kawan-kawan semua dalam kesempatan webinar siang hari ini. Intinya adalah bahwa pelaksanaan knowledge management menjadi sangat penting dalam lembaga pendidikan Islam anak usia dini, terlebih pada situasi pandemi COVID-19, karena penggunaan teknologi menjadi sangat penting, tetapi tak lupa penekanan kepada people dan proses yang baik dan benar. Terima kasih, nanti kita lanjut di sesi tanya jawab. Mohon maaf kalau banyak salah, ada beberapa hal teknis yang tadi mungkin cukup mengganggu. Sekian, wallahul muwaffiq ila aqwamit thoriq. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Candidate Alim Murfi MSc for the presentation. Mungkin bisa saya simpulkan ya dari penyampaian dari Dr. Kandidat Ali Murfi, yakni pentingnya knowledge management di era saat ini, yang ada keyword begitu yang menekankan pada orang, proses, dan kemudian teknologi. Kemudian ada perubahan yang diharapkan dari dampak COVID ini seperti transformasi digital pada kecepatan yang tinggi, kemudian informasi dan panduan yang konsisten, kemudian ada transformasi digital ke cloud, dan kebutuhan akan teknologi paling baru seperti itu. Dan yang terakhir adalah kunci sukses dari pelaksanaan knowledge management ini sendiri adalah dari orang yang bisa dioptimalkan, dan di sini adalah peran pemimpin sangat penting seperti itu. Kemudian kita bisa rethink and support. Mungkin kurang lebih seperti itu. Terima kasih Dr. Kandidat Ali Murfi. Baik, sekarang kita akan pindah ke sesi tanya jawab. We will come to question and answer session. Tadi panitia sudah menulis beberapa pertanyaan ya. And the first question is come from Assalamualaikum, my name is Intan. I'm lecturer from SDIT Islamic Village. I would like to ask a question to Professor Madya Bahbibi Rahmatullah. How does Malaysian early childhood school program in this pandemic condition? Do they practice online learning? And the last question is there any restriction or limitation from government or school in using gadget regarding online learning? Professor Madya Bahbibi Rahmatullah, can you hear me? Oke, baik, sepertinya kami sedang berusaha menghubungi Profesor Madya Bahbibi. Pertanyaan selanjutnya juga untuk Profesor Madya Bahbibi ya. Oh, baik. Sepertinya Profesor Madya Bahbibi sedang bermasalah dengan internet connection hari ini dan sedang
boleh dengar?
Oke, sudah terdengar.
Ya. Bukan, tadi masalahnya saya tidak boleh unmute. Dia kata host yang kena unmute.
Oh, baik.
Ya. Okey.
Yes.
Alright, terima kasih ya. Soalan yang pertama tadi mengenai bagaimana Malaysian conduct our learning during the pandemic time kan. Kami pun ada lockdown that was a bit unexpected, mulai March 20 berapa hari bulan, saya lupa exact. It went on up to May and June. Jadi pada awalnya ramai yang tidak bersedia, jadi tidak buat apa-apa. Semua hanya duduk diam, dan kemudian bila slowly the restriction order was lifted by phase, mula-mula sedikit, there are still some red zone and so on. Actually now so there are a few places yang masih berada dalam red zone ya, yang terpaksa work from home. But for the early childhood di Malaysia dia ada dua ya. Satu adalah Taska nursery which is 0 to 4 years old, and Tadika which is the kindergarten or preschool. They are 5 and 6, means 4 plus 5 plus. So for these two age, they are under different ministry. The early childhood, the nursery, dia ibu bapa perlu sebab mereka perlu pergi bekerja. Tapi pada waktu itu kerana ibu bapa tidak perlu pergi bekerja, jadi there are some kemudahan yang diberikan untuk pengusaha atau operator Taska ya. Tetapi pada Tadika dia dah a bit more formal learning. Dia mengikut sekolah rendah. Jadi bila sekolah rendah tak dibuka, maka Tadika pun tidak boleh dibuka. Tetapi ada yang swasta, mereka perlu teruskan juga because their income is very much based on the fees. The parents won't pay if there is no learning going on. So it's quite a vicious cycle lah kan. Jadi Tadika masih ya, yang swasta mereka masih provide learning kepada yang kerajaan preschool. Walaupun not much required, but since all the teachers slowly have offered learning through the internet, online learning, whatever platform they want to use, mostly they use WhatsApp, meaning they talk to the parents, mereka bercakap dengan ibu bapa, kemudian beri sedikit video, rakamkan video. Dia bergantung pada kreativiti ya. Jadi swasta dan kerajaan berbeza. Jadi guru-guru yang kerajaan yang public, mereka perlu gunakan WhatsApp untuk reach to the children, tetapi kalau children tu tidak ada akses, maka mereka perlu sediakan video dan sharing ya. Dan saya juga mendapati ada yang menghantar worksheet kepada ibu bapa untuk dilakukan dengan anak-anak mereka ya. Ada juga yang sharing YouTube videos, mungkin ada yang menarik, mereka share kepada ibu bapa, walaupun bukan video sendiri, tapi mereka share untuk ibu bapa tonton dan buat dengan kanak-kanak. Pada yang taska, meaning the 0 to 4, it's a bit more difficult sebab ada parents yang, especially the frontliners, they have to go and work, you know, the nurse, the doctors, the police, you know, all those frontliners. Jadi mereka perlukan tempat untuk hantar kanak-kanak. Jadi taska mengambil kanak-kanak tetapi dengan nombor atau bilangan yang kecil, because they want to do, you know, that I don't call it social distancing. We don't want to be socially distanced. We are just physically distancing ourselves. You know, kita cuma menjarakkan diri secara fizikal, tapi secara sosialnya kita masih berkomunikasi ya. Jadi for those children, you know, but what do children knows? You know, they go there, they want to play with the other children, you know, they want to hug their teachers. So it's a bit tricky. Memang ada yang sometimes viral ya, manusia-manusia yang memviralkan dan menyoal, you know, sama ada praktis ini betul dan tidak, because it's never, you know, we never had this before. You know, it's new for everyone. So everyone is still learning what are the best way. You know, kita manusia masih mencuba, ya. Sepatutnya bukannya mengkritik, tetapi kita memberi komen yang membina. So basically, I think this is just my personal view, as also as a mother and also those who, you know, involved with early childhood, you know, during my time as the director. The early part, it was the time to reset, you know, our thinking. You know, all this while kita telah berikan kepada cikgu sahaja untuk educate, kan? Semua education just going on at school. You know, the parents, you know, tidak buat apa-apa. Tapi itu adalah waktu reset. Ya, ibu bapa yang mengambil tanggungjawab penuh ke atas, you know, anak-anak mereka. So that are the time, you know, for us to pause, to reflect, you know, reset our thinking. What does education means? And it's time to go back to nature. You know, balik kepada maksud education yang sebenar. Tetapi sayangnya, sepatutnya waktu itu digunakan untuk expose them, you know, to the nature. Because children ya, tidak sama. Kalau kita tunjuk YouTube, yang saya buat dengan anak saya sendiri ya, she is now 7 years old. She went through all those taska and tadika in Malaysia. Compared to some children, some of my children who was in UK, they had their study there before. Bila kita tunjuk YouTube, ya, you want to show the stars, you know, you want to show, you know, the amazing nature, you know, what cosmology, for them to appreciate. You show it through the laptop or the handphone, compared to you bring them out at night and sit and gaze at the star. Totally different. And banyak orang yang dokumentkan ya, kanak-kanak, bila bukan kanak-kanak, kita juga, bila kita belajar dengan melihat, you know, whatever is there on the video, you don't remember it that long. You know, you don't remember it that long. You will, you know, it will just be there for a few. But now, if we reflect ourselves juga, kita bertanya diri kita, apa yang paling banyak kita ingat ya? Kebanyakannya yang we have that first hand experience, kita terus dengan perkara tersebut. You know, we play with the insect, we play with the worm, we play with the sand and the soil. You know, itu lebih berkesan kepada kanak-kanak. Dia memberi lebih inspirasi. Itu sebabnya, you know, great teachers we inspire. You know, kan ada, you know, that word that, you know, you tell, then you show, then you do this, and then the last one you have to inspire them. So unfortunately, I did some research juga. Saya kena pergi selepas PKP, we call it PKP ya, Perintah Kawalan Pergerakan. In Malaysia, the lockdown was PKP. There's PKPB, PKPD. There are a lot of PKP for the phase. So I had to go to some of these taska to to observe. So some of the teachers said those children who came back, most of them are a bit less active, and most of them are happy. All of them are happy to meet friends. Some of them are sad because they have to be away daripada ibu bapa. Tetapi ada kanak-kanak yang telah menjadi pasif. Because those time, semasa lockdown, ibu bapa atau guru telah banyak beri gadget. Jadi budak-budak itu sudah terbiasa, sedangkan dia adalah satu kanak-kanak yang aktif, tetapi pada waktu itu kerana dibiasakan banyak gadget, all of those learning was through gadget. Budak pun berapa lama boleh fokus. Even kita sekarang berapa lama di sini. Sepatutnya kalau menurut online learning theory, we have to sit only around 20 minutes. We have to take a break and then come back, another 20 minutes. Kita punya attention span tidak boleh terlalu lama. Bayangkan kanak-kanak. Jadi they will go and find games and videos. Kalau kita tengok video yang paling banyak klik kalau ibu-ibu, you want to, cikgu-cikgu semua you want to be famous in YouTube, all you have to do is do children video in English and then you will get millions of clicks. I've noticed that. I've been like looking at that because children, they will go back and they will go to the same video again and again. So you will have a very high click, view, and subscribe, and for the children's videos. So we should use. There are also I'm involved with teaching children for coding. All this new IR 4.0. There are also ways to teach them without using computer. We don't have to rely 100% on these gadgets and everything. There can be without this technology where they can learn all that. You just get the material from online and then do that offline, with your children, as long as they are occupied. And children, let them. Sometimes you don't have to always engage and stimulate them. It's not good. You have to let them be bored. Boring is good. That's what I always tell my daughter. Boring is good. She comes to me and say, "Oh, I'm so bored." And it's like, boring is good because it will enhance your thinking. You will try to find something else for you to do, to engage yourself with. Sebab thinking bukan hanya di sini, Bu. InsyaAllah sebenarnya di dalam rohani kita juga. So that's what I can share. I'm nothing against the technology. I'm fully about it because I also use technology. I create some of those technology as well to help ourselves, but we are not totally dependent on technology for everything. Harap tadi itu ada sedikit membantu based on my experience and my research, insyaAllah. Ada yang tanya lagi, restriction on gadget? There you go. Soalan yang baik, dia boleh menjawab balik soalannya. We have to restrict on gadget actually. As I said, kanak-kanak telah menjadi pasif kanak-kanak yang bagus. Kalau kita lihat pun, rasanya it is quite a known knowledge Mark Zuckerberg, Sergey, I forgot that, Google guy. Kebanyakan orang di Silicon Valley yang create all this technology for us, they don't expose their child too early to the technology. They expose them earlier to the nature. Kebanyakan mereka homeschooling. The parents, they homeschool their children, and you have that mind. Dia lebih terbuka minda dia daripada menjadi too narrow, just on whatever technology can give them to keep them engaged and stimulated. Go back to nature. I'm all about Waldorf theory, the project approach, Lillian cards. Kalau banyak yang belajar dalam teori-teori PAUD ni saya juga pernah ke Budapest berjumpa di saya lupa, itulah memory saya pun a bit ni low, but they are very much about engaging children with nature because we are very close to nature. So insyaAllah, I hope that answers that question. Siapa tadi? Nur Aini?
Yes, we still have one question for you. Okay. And the question is, you have told us about early childhood education in Malaysia. So how many % the effectiveness of early childhood in Malaysia in the new normal era, and how the Malaysian educators in upgrading their IT skills?
Okay, I'll talk about the upgrading of IT skills. Saya rasa for early childhood, we don't have to worry too much. Okay, kalau the focus is on the early childhood ya, kebanyakannya menggunakan video, menggunakan alat komunikasi seperti berhubung ya, WhatsApp and so on. They do learn how to make some cartoons, maybe using Powtoon, you know, whatever animated technology there yang boleh tolong animatekan kita punya content. So the early childhood teachers, I think they are well prepared because they are an avid user of technology as well. But in terms of the effectiveness, you know, we have to question, we have to go back to the meaning of what does effective means, makna. Sangat penting untuk kita tahu apa itu makna efektif. You know, effective, we don't really measure. For me, a good measure would be go back to what Maria Montessori pernah kata, one test of to know that your educational procedure is correct or not is the happiness of the child. You know, if the child is happy, tapi kena faham ya, happy yang sebenar bukan happy pasang gadget, dia happy. No, that's not what happiness. That is a very pseudo ataupun sangat temporary. Kita bagi dia happy sebentar sahaja. Okay, so the happiness that comes from their face when they discover something, you know, they learn the meaning of something. Kanak-kanak ya pasti sekali happy bila dibawa keluar. Yeah, I've seen even the autistic children, yeah, with autism, they cannot stay confined, you know, but when they see a open space, there's a light in their face, mukanya bercahaya, suka tengok, you know, luasnya dunia, mereka mahu keluar ya. Mungkin lockdown kita tak boleh bawa ke field yang besar, tetapi kita boleh buat di tepi-tepi rumah ya, di halaman yang berdekatan. Give them that space. So the effectiveness, we do have a platform, National Child Data Center ya, untuk melihat pencapaian kanak-kanak melalui indikator-indikator mereka. Didapati kalau yang banyak ada penglibatan ibu bapa dan juga engagement with nature, ability ya, kalau kita tengok in terms of cognitive sahaja, I'm talking only on cognitive, which is not the only effectiveness we should be measuring. Anyway, when that platform was on that effectiveness on cognitive, didapati memang mereka lebih tinggi, ya, dia pencapaian mereka in terms of indicators, cognitive, bahasa, literacy, logics, you know, math, aesthetic, and so on. They are higher compared to children who are not in that environment, you know, that encourage parents' involvement and nature. So to put a number, I can't, but in terms of pencapaian kognitif, there is, but I'm seeing the benefit. Perlu lihat juga benefit dari segi rohani, dari segi emosi mereka juga. Bila mereka rasa happy, they can go and discover new things, you know, in the world. They have their questions answered. They have a lot more new questions, then I think that is effective. Jangan diamkan mereka dengan memberi gadget, you know. So that's my take on it, insyaAllah.
Thank you so much, Professor Madia Bahbibi Rahmatullah, for the answering question. And now I will read the question to Dr. Shazia. The first question is, what is the best application for early childhood online study of children? I mean, maybe the question is about what is the best platform for early childhood education to online learning?
Okay, I will not mention here any best learning platform. It's something that no educator will propagate. But I can only mention here, as has already been discussed in this presentation also, that when you are trying to use certain platform, and when I said the last slide, if you remember, I had the slide on tips for instruction to the teachers for using various platforms. So there I very clearly mentioned that when you use certain learning platform, it's very important that you have to understand which learners you are addressing. What is the content that you are trying to make the students learn, right? what is the system, the limitations of the system that you are using, what are the advantages of using that system. So according to your need, according to the lesson that you are going to take, you can decide the platform that is available for you. But I can just mention here one point, that for small children, where we talk of early childhood education, the best platform is not to, you cannot use a platform where you have to type something, right? Like for instance, WhatsApp. You have to type the messages, you have to get the responses through the typed messages. The best platform that you can make sure is any kind of platform which actually uses video conferencing, where you have a direct eye contact with your students who are sitting next to you, and the small children will also be able to better observe what their teacher is doing. So whether it be their speaking skills that you are trying to improve of the small child, or any content that you are taking, it's always better to have them on a video app. So I'll just mention here, and there are many then. You have Zoom, you have Google Meet, you have Microsoft Teams, you have so many apps and platforms available for that. But then, as I already mentioned in my presentation, that certain tips have to be, certain guidelines have to be followed before you use any platform. Even a a platform or a resource that you are using, you have to understand what is your need, what is your requirement. All right, so I hope this answers the question.
Yeah, Dr. Sazia, and this is the next question, one more question. This is from Miratul Hayati. Assalamualaikum. I want to ask Dr. Shazia and Mr. Ali Murphy. In practice, studying at home is not easy. Lack of enthusiasm for children and ability of parents to assist children in the challenge in online learning. Not all parents can become like teacher at school. And many parents are not patient, which is also has a negative impact. Because of these conditions, children become less enthusiastic, so they are bored and they have no friends and no one to motivate. Because usually in school, teachers teach with art. There are clapping, singing, and various other creative activities. While at home, they tend to be monotone. And the question is how to do effective learning and assessment for children during this pandemic. Thank you.
So this is addressed to both me and Dr. Murphy also.
Yes.
So if Dr. Murphy wants to answer, or if you want me to say something about it, then please.
You can give your comments first, maybe.
All right. So a very valid point has been put by Miratul Hayati. And I would like to mention that in my presentation, I totally focused on the ways in which you can utilize this period, COVID-19 period, in various formats and ways for better learning. But then as which the points which I did not mention was the various challenges that both the teachers and the learners are facing in this COVID-19 pandemic situation, where there is non-availability of resources, where the students do not have proper mobile phones or sets to utilize the applications, where the awareness of the technology is not there, the right kind of skills are not there. There are many things that has been observed by both the teachers and the learners while we are using these online learning platforms. The question that you have put is very appropriate. In the traditional classroom setting, usually students come together, they play along, they group together, they are able to interact, they have various activities going on in the school system where they can interact with each other. How are we going to make this monotony at home removed? I can mention here, as I have also mentioned in my presentation, that for the assessment and effective learning, it is always emphasized, even on online learning platforms, that you don't have to give a lecture. Try avoiding giving a lecture, a complete boring lecture. Try to engage the students with the help of certain quizzes, maybe certain games, certain flashcards, certain videos, certain audios that you can attach to your presentation, and you can make them watch it, right? You can provide them links, you can provide them quizzes, as I did in my presentation. So what will happen? The student will feel that there's no monotony, but there is a change in the activities that are being performed in the classroom. Similarly, we usually engage in video conferencing nowadays. We have developed that so far, both in your country as well as in our country. Students are using it. We are even using WhatsApp for online teaching and learning. I can assure you this. But then again, what students have tried and what the teachers are doing, they are using various resources, a multitude of resources. For instance, they are using multimedia for delivering the content. So instead of speaking for 50 minutes or 20 minutes, it's always better to utilize a number of resources, online resources in various formats, whether it be audio, video, etc., images, animations, graphics, etc., so that you are better able to engage the students creatively. And also give them homework, give them work to do, give them certain activities to do always, so that they don't sit at home and think, like tomorrow is the class, I'll study tomorrow only, I will not study today. So give them activities so that they get engaged. So this is all that I can suggest here. Over to Mr. Ali Murphy.
Thank you, Dr. Shazia, for answering the question. And now, please, Dr. Candidate Ali Murphy, give comments from the question.
Ya, terima kasih Mbak Miratul Hayati ya pertanyaannya. Assalamualaikum. Waalaikumsalam. Kemudian di sini ada tantangan bahwa belajar di rumah itu tidak mudah. Nah, kemudian bagaimana cara menciptakan pembelajaran dan penilaian yang efektif untuk anak-anak kita selama situasi pandemik ini. Betul, memang tidak mudah. Kalau dulu kita sering komplain terhadap bagaimana pelaksanaan pembelajaran di sekolah, dan sekarang untuk menjadi guru di rumah juga sangat tidak mudah, karena memang mengajar itu membutuhkan seni yang sangat tinggi. Tetapi terlepas dari itu semua, ada 5 langkah yang kemudian menjadikan situasi pembelajaran antara kita sebagai orang tua dan anak itu bisa berjalan secara efektif dan efisien. Yang pertama, orang tua dan anak itu harus membuat jadwal kegiatan bersama untuk manajemen waktu agar berjalan secara efektif. Dan yang kedua, bersama-sama merumuskan ide kegiatan. Mana pelajaran yang akan kita pelajari atau kita bahas atau kita ajarkan. Kemudian yang ketiga, gunakan komunikasi yang positif selayaknya antara guru dan murid yang bersahabat, karena itu juga anak kita. Nah, yang keempat, ingatkan waktu dan introspeksi. Jadi kayak refleksi seperti itu. Jadi hubungan antara anak dan orang tua ketika belajar bersama itu harus sama-sama introspeksi apa yang menjadi kekurangan selama pelaksanaan pembelajaran di rumah. Dan yang terakhir adalah relasi dan refleksi tadi, bahwa menjamin hubungan antara anak dan orang tua itu layaknya guru dan murid. Kira-kira begitu, Mbak Miratul Hayati. Terima kasih.
Baik, terima kasih Pak Ali Murphy. Okay, we have come to end our session here. Ini sudah jam 11.22. Mungkin bisa saya simpulkan dari semua pemateri tadi. Jadi dari yang pertama dari Pak Ahmad Umar, jadi untuk usia dini ini memang sedang golden age seperti itu. Jadi kita harus bisa memanfaatkan semaksimal mungkin potensi yang ada di dalam diri anak. Kemudian sebagai orang tua, calon orang tua pun di masa saat ini harus berhati-hati dalam sharing seperti itu, membuka account untuk calon anak-anak kita nanti. Kita harus menghargai privasi mereka, kita harus melindungi hak-hak mereka pun juga seperti itu. Kemudian dari Dr. Shazia juga disampaikan bahwa di masa sekarang ini kita masa transisi ya, dari masa normal menuju dan new normal. Banyak sekali tersedia platform yang sangat bermanfaat dan mendukung untuk proses pembelajaran, baik itu pembelajaran dasar ataupun pembelajaran usia dini seperti itu. Kemudian kita harus bisa menyesuaikan apakah kebutuhan mana yang akan kita sasar. Untuk asesmen juga bisa kita manfaatkan platform-platform yang sudah ada seperti Quizzes, Kahoot, dan lain sebagainya. Demikian, thank you For Professor Madya, Dr. Bahbibi Rahmatullah, Dr. Shazia Mansuri, and Dr. Candidate Ali Murfi for the presentation. And we will close our webinar today with saying Hamdalah together. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. I'm here on behalf of the Faculty of Education and Teaching Science, Study Program of Early Childhood Islamic Study Program, saying sorry for all the mistakes, and inshallah we will hold our next webinar in the next Wednesday. To close, we will close this webinar in few seconds. Okay, thank you for all the participants, for all speakers. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Prof. Bahbibi and Dr. Tasya.
My pleasure, Dr. Sidit. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It was wonderful.
Jangan dipasih.
Jangan dipasih.